A very good morning, everybody. Today is the first day of the presentations of semester 2 students. This is the second season of presentations. Semester 2 students, and this time 20th century literature on which they are going to make their presentations. Let us have a quick look at the topics on which they are going to make presentations. So in the morning session on the first day, we will start with RUTVI's presentation on From Patriotism to Protest, the Evolution of War Poetry from World War I to World War II and its echoes today. It will be followed by KUMKUM's presentation on the aesthetics of violence, how war poets transform horror into art. BHARGAV's presentation will be on the role of art in war. KRISHNA VALA will make a presentation on representation of India in 20th century European literature. PARATHIVs will be on the politics of postmodern metafiction, self-reflexivity and historical narratives. TRUPTIs will be on stream of consciousness in classical Indian literature, tracing its influence in modern narratives. Bhumis will be on social media and the digital stream of consciousness. KHUSHIs will be on a comparative study of the birthday party and Andhadhun. JYOTIs will be on the absurd elements in the birthday party, a comparison with Beckett's, I think, Waiting for Godot, you want to say. Not wait for Godot, waiting for Godot. I was feeling happy that for this many, I don't have to suggest anybody, and things have improved. Everybody is writing proper title, but there should be one or two namunas always to say that no, hum aise nahi sudhrenge. We will keep on making a mistake. So waiting for Godot in single inverted comma. I hope tomorrow I won't have to repeat this. Jai will make on the unseen authority, bureaucracy, surveillance, and totalitarian echoes in the birthday party. Divya's will be on why the birthday party remains relevant today. The birthday party is a play, so single inverted comma. Dhruvika, influence of the theater of the absurd in the birthday party. This you can make it small t for that. Okay? The theater, the absurd, that is no need to make it capital T. Sanket, absurdism in literature, the search for meaning in a meaningless world. Krupali on black humor in 20th century literature, absurdism and political critique. Khushi Ravia on absurdism in Indian classical literature, the chaos of dharma in the Mahabharata, and the last one will be by Khushi MAKWANA on Dadaism, art as anti-art. Okay. So we have quite interesting topics there. Let us see how you are able to give justice to very good looking topics. Okay? So let us start with the first presentation.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present on the topic Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present on the topic from patriotism to protest, the evolution of war poetry from World War One to World War Two and its echoes today. Today, I will explore the transformation of war poetry from patriotic glorification in World War One to disillusioned protest in World War Two and beyond. We will examine key poets and poems from poems that reflect this shift and analyze their continuous impact on contemporary war narrative. Throughout this presentation, I will integrate historical context, literary analysis, and real poetic line to show how war poetry serves as the powerful medium of truth and resistance. Here is a table of content. And my research question is how does the evolution of war poetry from World War One to modern conflict reflects changing attitude towards war and what role does poetry play in shaping historical memory and public reception of war? And my hypothesis is as war poetry evolved from a patriotic glorification in World War One to protest in World War Two and psychological reflection in modern conflict. It has a significant influence how war is remembered and understood by exposing the horror of war and its human cost. War poetry challenge official narratives and serve as a powerful tool for historical reflection and critique. Introduction: the shift in war poetry. At the beginning of World War One, many poets, especially those with no direct combat experience, wrote poetry that celebrate war as noble and heroic. However, as a soldier began witnessing the horror of the battlefield, these patriotic optimism faded. Poets such as poets such as Wilfrid's On and Sassoon rejected earlier glorifications and instead exposing the reality of war. By World War II, poetry was no longer just as a tool for recruitment or national pride. It was become a medium of disillusionment, political critique, and personal trauma. In this presentation, we will trace this transformation and examine how war poetry continues to resonate in today's world. This is a chart that how poet wrote about which theme he wrote about. Patriotic war poetry, World War One. At the outbreak of World War One, poetry played a crucial role in shaping public sentiment about war. Many poets, often writing from a distance, portrayed war as a noble and heroic endeavor. Rupert Brooke, the soldier, optimized this view, idealizing death in battles as a form of patriotic immorality. Similarly, Gibson's The Fear echoes the early belief that dying for one's country was a glorious duty. However, as the soldier experienced the true horror of the trenches, this patriotic enthusiasm gives way to disillusionment, a shift we reality of war protest poetry in World War One. As the war dragged on poets who had experienced the front lines began to write in a stark contrast. The early patriotic poetry. Uh, uh, Once a poem, duels at decorum, it calls out the old lie that war is glorious, describing the reality of a gas attack. Sassoon's the hero mocks the false narratives told to grieving families, exposing the hypocrisy of military propaganda. Similarly, Ivor, the target, present the moral anguish of killing in war, showing how soldiers were forced into impossible choices. These poets transform war poetry into a form of protest, challenging the myth of horror and sacrifice. World War II further disillusionment. By World War II, poetry had moved beyond more protest to deeply cynical and personal reflection on war. Unlike World War One poets who mainly focus on trench welfare horrors, World War II poets expand their critique to include political propagandas and psychological trauma. Douglas, in his poem, humanized an enemy soldier, questioning the morality of war. Reads reads naming of parts incorrectly contrasts military deals with the natural world, revealing war's absurdity. Jurel's The Death of the Bell Torrent Journal is one of the most chilling suspicious of war's brutality, reducing the soldier life to a mechanical process. These poets highlight how World War II reinforced war futility and human cost. Echoes today a war poetry in modern conflict. Through the battlefield has changed. War poetry remains as relevant as ever in today's conflict. Poets explore the themes of PTSD, means traumatic stress disorder, drones, warfare, and the role of media in shaping public perception. Brain Turner writes poem first-hand experience, confronting the raw brutality of modern combat in Here Bullet. Simon Armitage, in his poem Remains, dwell into the psychological scare left on soldiers long after they return home. Duffy's last post reflect on the futility of war, linking past and present. Modern war poetry continues the tradition ensuring that his horrors are not forgotten. Conclusion. Throughout the history, war poetry has been a crucial means of recording and questioning war. From Rupert Brooke's patriotic idealism to Owen's bitter protest, from Douglas' detached cynicism to Turner's modern reflection on PTSD, war poetry has continuously evaluated. It does not more than describe better. It is tell the personal, emotional, and psychological truth that history books often overlook. This is a reference.
So, Rutvi, my question is, do you think war poetry is more effective than journalism in conveying the reality of war?
Both are important, but in journalism they provide fact and where the event happened and how happened. But in poetry, poet reflect the how soldier feel the pain and emotion. The both are necessary, but they represent different way. That one is journalism represent fact, while poetry reflect the fear and emotion how soldier felt during the war and after. Thank you. This is from my side.
My question is, if a new major war occurred, do you think patriotic war poetry would return or would protest poetry dominate?
It depends on war and how people feel about it. If write about war, if war is necessary, then poet may glorify the war. But in modern era, we know that how war is horror, and so poet may write about horror of war, not write about may not glorify the war. Thank you.
So, hello everyone. I'm KUMKUM HIRANI. In today's presentation, I'll discuss about the topic that the aesthetic of violence, how war poets transfer horror into art. So basically, it's about that during the war time, how people suffer a lot, but war poet transfer horror into art in their poetry. They mainly discuss about the soldier's view. So here academic information, table of content, and here research question that how do war poets use aesthetics technique to transform the horrors of a war into art while conveying an anti-war message? Hypothesis: war poets employ vivid imagery, irony, and lyrical beauty to depict the brutality of war in an aesthetically structured form, not to glorify violence but to evoke emotional response that challenge traditional narratives of heroism and patriotism. Here, introduction. War poetry play a crucial role in shaping our understanding of war. It transforms raw violence into artistic experience, allowing readers to feel both the horror and emotional depth of warfare. Unlike tradition, narratives that focus on heroism and glorify, war poetry often expose the brutality, psychological trauma, and moral dilemmas faced by soldiers through literary technique like a vivid imagery, irony, symbolism, and rhythm. War poets capture the chaos and destruction of battle rather than simply reporting fact that use poetry to make readers experience war firsthand. For example, Wilfred Owen's Dulce et Decorum, which is published in 1970, provide a deeply personal and shocking account of a gas attack using imagery and is noble. But in this poem, like Wilfred Owen discuss about the always dying for our country is not always like always noble. uh, Here are the first topic, the aesthetics aestheticization of violence. So the concept of aestheticizing violence refer to presenting brutality in a word that is artically structured, emotionally engaging, and intellectually meaningful. In a war, violence is not depicted as a random chaos but as an organization, poetic experience that force the reader to confront its horror. That war poetry shows the true side of a war instead of just saying about the how war are dangerous, and how in during the wartime are violence are made. And so poet use a contract such as a mixing beautiful Seren's language with violent content to create a deeper emotional response. This technique ensure that war neither glorify nor ignore but fully experience. For the example, like in Wilfred Owen's Strange Meeting poem, turn a nightmare vision of war into almost surreal, dreamlike poem where a soldier's meeting a ghost, an enemy he killed. That the contrast between a soft flowing version and the harsh reality of death enhance the emotional impact. So in this poem, Strange Meeting, that man meet the soldier meet the young man who killed that soldiers, and him suddenly he meets the ghost which he kills. So it's like a dream, like but it's about the death and how he survived on it. So irony as a tool of critique. uh, and so irony is one of the most powerful technique in a war poetry. It allows poet to expose the contradiction between official war propaganda and actual experience of soldiers. While government often portray war as a noble sacrifice, soldiers experience suffering, fear, and dehumanization. So here a poet use irony to shows the real side of the war. Sometimes government says that war is a good, but no, but because of his government says that war are good because of our country leads uh, but here poet describe poetry in a soldier's view that how and do irony on governments and other things. So irony highlight this contradiction and force reader to question the myth surrounding war. It is used to mock military leaders, expose the lies, patriotism, and shows how soldiers are abandoned once they are no longer useful. For example, Wilfred Owen's "Dulc et decorum" is ironically used a Latin phrase that means it is sweet and right to die for one's country, only to describe a horrifying gas attack that provoked the opposite. And so in this poem, Wilfrid also criticize the war that always die for our country is not noble. So vivid imagery and sensory detail. War poetry often relies on imagery descriptions that appeal to sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell to make the horror of war feel real to reader. And this technique is effective that it can make reader feel as if they are experience war themselves. So war poetry describe war in a detail, so we can imagine it instead of just saying war is bad. But poet shows that what war looks like, what war sound like, and what war feels like. So poet use graphic description of death, wounds, and the battlefield condition to ensure that war is not abstract but deeply personal. Instead of speaking about war in a general term, they focus on the individual suffering of soldiers. Here are the example like Wilfred Owen's exposure described the freezing cold in the trench, making the reader physically feel the discomfort. So, and our here are the poems line. Our brain is in the miracle. Ice is wine that connive with us. Uh, in this line also Wilfrid give the idea that how soldiers are suffer with lots of pain in every season. So this make the reader experience the soldier suffering firsthand. The irony of war poetry. Irony is a powerful tool in a war poetry used to contrast expedition with reality. Many poets mock the glorified image of the through the irony. And with the help of irony here, poets describe about that war is always not glorified. Uh, Wilfred Owen's "Dulc decorum" is the famous line. It is sweet and right to die for one's country. It's a bitterly ironical, as Owens described the horror of a gas attack. Sassoon's The Chandral shows how careless military leaders cause the death of their own men. Here owns the send off. The soldier depart with cheers, but return in a silence, buried or broken. So irony forced reader to question patriotic narratives and war propaganda. So woman's perspective in war poetry. Women comment on war poetries because during the wartime they lost their some family members, lover or other. While war poetry is often male dominated, some women's poet offer a unique perspective on war's impact on families and home life. Here are some women writer which are write about the war poetry, like Vera Britten's perhaps, like describe the pain of losing a loved one. In this poem she described about her lover who died in a war. And so Charlotte's Mume in 1950, like Morris the West of Young, live in a war. J.C. Spock, Who's for the Game, a propaganda poem encouraging men to enlist, later criticized by on. Women's war poetry reflect both loss and the struggle for recognition. The influence of war poetry on later literature. So, war poetry influenced modern literature, music, and film, shaping how war is portrayed. T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland echoes themes of war's destruction and psychological trauma. Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms shows war's emotional devastation, inspired by the poets like Wilfred Owen. A film like 1970, They Shall Not Grow Old, use the real war poetry in their storytelling. Also, in today's time, many filmmaker use in their film use a war, and they describe about the war, how soldiers are suffer pain and lots of things. So, war poets laid the foundation for realistic war literature and the media. So here are some war poets like Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, Vera Brittain, and Robert Brooke. So conclusion: war poetry does not celebrate violence. Instead, it shows the true horror of war using powerful literary technique like imagery, irony, and symbolism. Poets like Wilfred Owen, Sigmund Sassoon, and the Keith Douglas describe the pain and suffering of soldiers, breaking the idea that war is heroic. Owen's dull decorum is Sassoon's the general, and the Douglas how to kill. All reveals the terrible reality of battle, both physically and emotionally. Their poem reminds us of the heavy cost of war and serve as a even today these works remain important because they help us understanding the impact of war and the suffering it brings. So the reference, and thank you. If you guys have any question, then ask freely.
Hello, Kumkum. My question is, how does the aestheticization of violence in war poetry influence the reader's emotional response to war?
So in a war poetry, they describe have some violence, but war poet in their poetry they describe about the art. Which they write about the soldiers' view, not like how war is terrifying violence, and it's about that. So
my question is, what role does irony play in war poetry, and how do poets like Wilfred Owen and Siegfried Sassoon use it to critique war propaganda?
the poets like Owen and Sigmund Sassoon, they use irony as a main tool in their poetry, because with help of irony they criticize the governments, war, and other things. So yeah, thank you.
So hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss the role of art in war, which is such a important but overlooked topic. As war is not between guns and bullets and bombs, but influence can be seen also in the art and literature also. So today I am going to discuss it. And first is my introduction. Hello everyone, I am BHARGAV MAKWANA from semester 2. Then the table of content. First, I will discuss the introduction of wartime art. Then we will explore some key features of war art. Then the impact of wartime art, followed by the war poetry. Then war and literature in a novel. Then a song inspired by war. Then wartime painting and movies as wartime art. First, research question. So my research question is, how does war influence different form of art, and what role does art play in shaping war narratives? My hypothesis is this presentation will examine how a wartime influence multiple art forms, not just literature, and how these works shape the historical and memory of individual identity. So first of all, introduction to wartime art. Wartime art serve multiple functions: propaganda, such as propaganda, commemorative, and personal reflection. Then artists often navigate a tension between creative expression and national duality, where artists follow the confusion that what should his art should present, like it should be loyal to his country's present situation, or just some imagination. Then the 20th century saw art become a powerful tool in shaping public opinion, political ideologies, and collective memory. This presentation will explore how wartime art influences perception, psychological responses, and its reassessment post-war. First of all, features of wartime art. First is propaganda art. Government uses art to shape opinions, fuel nationalism, and justify wars. Like in 1984, and the artist of the floating world. In 1984, the art language means to use language to justify their current situations. Then in artist of a floating world, the protagonist is portraying some paintings to justify the current situation of war, to motivate people to participate in a wartime. Second is a commemorative art, which often describes the memorialize fallen soldier, victory, and sacrifice. Its example is the Soldier by Rupert Brooke. Then the art as a protest challenges war's morality, exposing its brutality and futility. Examples: on being asked for a war poem, which is not supporting war, or just it is ironically poem that does not support only war, but it also present its different side. Then personal and reflective art expresses personal experiences, trauma, and the impact of art. There is a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which collects his personal experiences uh, during a camp. Then wartime art and its impact. First, on its impact on artists. Many artists struggle with guilt over creating a propaganda. Some justify their work as a patriotic, while others later regret their role. In an artist of the floating world, we can see the same situation. Then on the public, propaganda steers nationalism, fear, and enemy hatred. Post-war depicted post-war public perception of propaganda shift as the consequences become clearer. So we can see that how art importantly play the role that shapes public opinions, and the people's hopes and reality. Then war poetry. There are I have taken basically two poems, which one shows the glorification of war, and the second shows its suffering. Like first is Wilfred Owen's Duels at Decorum East, which was written on the setting of World War One. The theme of brutality of war and the false glorification of dying for one's country. Here are some lines which represent this situation. Then Rupert Brooke's The Soldier, which also has the setting of World War One. The theme present war as a noble and patriotic, focusing on sacrifice and national identity. If I should die, think only this of me, that there is some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. So we can see that both the poetry, at one point or other point, trying to uh, the main setting is a war, where the first poetry is trying to say that how war is not just about glorification or enhance one's identity, but it also says that it also has some horrors and terrible events are there happening between war. Then the Rupert Brooks, the soldier, it glorifies a person like who is loyal to his own country, and presenting that he can sacrifice for his country. The next is literature and war, novels and plays. First is Catch 22 by Joseph Heller, which has the setting of World War II, the theme of absurdity of war, bureaucracy, and survival. So Catch 22 is a story of a young man who is a bombardier in a wartime. He basically tries to ignore the war and trying to convince their upper governance that he do not want to take any participation in a wartime. While the other novel is For Whom the Bell Tolls is written by Ernest Hemingway. Here we can see the sacrifice, horror, and psychological toll of war. So both the works are at some point we can say that different from each other. While the first Catch 22 tries to describe how a soldier is forced to take a participation in war, while the other, where the soldier is happily participating in war and trying to convey that that his life is no match for his country's reputation or its importance. Then the songs of a war. First is Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan, which was written during the Vietnam War. It is an anti-war anthem questioning human suffering. Its lines are, how many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? Then the second song is We'll Meet Again by Vida Leon, which has also the setting of World War II, a wartime song offering hope and reassurance to soldiers and their loved ones. Its lines are, we will meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. So these two songs are different from each other, where the first song, Blowing in the Wind, represent that how many wars or walk a man should walk, and what a man needs to do before he call himself a man. While the second present the setting where soldiers are living for war, and the singer tries to say that we will meet again, and there is a type of hope that the war will be in our favor. Then wartime paintings. Paintings is such an important art which tries to shape the perception or the perception of people, such as there are some paintings like Pablo Picasso's Guernica, which was created during 1937. It depicts the horror and suffering caused by the bombing of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. Then John Singer's Sergeant Guest, which was created during 1990, depicts the suffering of soldiers blinded by the mustard gas during World War I. Then Francisco Guico, the 3rd of May 1808, which was created in 1840, depicts the execution of Spanish rebels by Napoleon's forces during the Peninsular War. Then movies and wartime art. First is The Life is Beautiful in the 1997, which was presented. Then the second is Moments Men, which was published in 2014. So first is Life is Beautiful. Life is Beautiful is a story about a young man who is facing the wartime, but he has quite a different opinion than other. Way that his son, he tries to save his son by the cruelty of war, by saying him that war is just like a game and he needs to just survive. In the end of this movie, he himself sacrificed his life to save his son, while the other side, the moment's men, it it is a story about how there are some paintings stolen by Nazis. There is a particular theme in this movie that when the armies are not that much strong, and they decide that we cannot overcome this country, so they stole some arts or some other things that might have the value of countries creative work, and they stoles it. So these are the soldiers or the person who are related with art in one or a different area, and they try to rescue their art. Then its conclusion would be wartime art is a double-edged sword, uses propaganda but also for truth telling. An artist of the floating world explores world exemplifies the moral struggle of wartime artists. Art's role in war continues to shape historical narratives and collective memory. Here are some references, and that's from my side. Now feel free to ask questions.
So, Bhargav, my question is to you that how does film represent war?
Uh, uh, Between 90s to 2000, there are some film creation, but after that time period, modernists try to use some effect to represent the wartime. Before the 2000, we can see that war movies was not that much strong, but after the use of editing, it represent both side of war, such as sacrifice and glorification of war. And while there are some other movies such as The Life is Beautiful, which also tries to represent common man's life in war. Next.
The question is, how does Catch 22 and For Whom the Bell Tolls depict a war differently?
Uh, Catch 22 present a war from the side of a soldier who is trying to escape the war, but still he is forced to participate in war. While the other work, which is For Whom the Bell Tolls, there is a soldier who is by himself trying to participate in war and try to contribute to his nation. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to deal with topic representation of India in 20th century European literature. So here is my academic information. Then this is table of content. And let's begin with the research question hypothesis. So my research question is, how does 20th century European literature represent India, and to what extent do this representation reflect colonial ideology or idealize Indian spirituality as a response to Western culture disillusionment? Then my hypothesis is India in 20th century European literature is shaped by two dominant narrative. One that perpetuate colonial ideology through paternalistic portrayals, and another that idealize Indian spiritual wisdom as a means to address Western culture disillusionment. While some authors reinforce imperialistic themes, others use Indian philosophy to challenge Western rationalism and materialism. Then introduction. In the 20th century, India played a significant role in shaping the landscape of English literature. As a writer from both within and outside India began to explore the country's culture, social and political complexity. Several authors represent India through their work in unique way. So first representation of India, we can see in the Rudyard Kipling's novel The King, was published in 1901. A representation of India, Kipling's scheme represent India through the colonized gaze, portraying British imperialism as a moral and stabilized force. A Kipling narrative emphasized social hierarchy as a natural line with the British Empire's ideological dominance. Kipling's belief in the white man's burden is evident in Kim, where the British are portrayed as a paternalistic ruler guiding India's development. Here is mention of the Great Game, unfold as a Kim navigate British espionage while blending into Indian society. His knowledge of Indian language and custom reflect Kipling's attempt to portray India's cultural richness. Yet this knowledge ultimately served imperial interest. And so basically, Rudyard Kipling tried to show India as a negative sense that British are not rule, but they try to civilize and try to develop India. Then T.S. Eliot's poem The Wasteland, it refers a modern epic poem, was published in 1922. In The Wasteland, T.S. Eliot used Indian spiritual concept like Ganga, Buddhist philosophy, and the Upanishad to suggest that spiritual renewal and inner peace can overcome the decline of Western culture. So, first representation in poem India is by fire sermon that connect the Buddhist philosophy and try to indirectly capture the Indian philosophy that connect with Buddhism. Then there is a mention of Ganga and Himvat. Ganga was uh, sunken and the limb sleeve waited for rain while the black cloud gathered far distant over Himvan. So here is the Ganga seen as a purity, life and spiritual renewal. Then Himvant is a sacred mountain range in India, often associated with a divine power and spiritual strength. Then another representation is Datta, Dayadvam, and Damyanta. That a message derived from the Brihadkaranya Upanishad. It means Datta means give, Dayadvam means sympathize, and Damyata means control. Then the ultimate message of the wasteland is a Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. That drawn from the Upanishada, where it signifies the peace with a passage understanding, function as a spiritual benediction, a calming end to poem's chaotic journey, suggests the possibility of inner harmony despite external turmoil. So T.S. Eliot not directly mention India, but he choose some lines and reference that indirectly represent India. Then Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha was published in 1922. It portray India as a land of spiritual enlightenment, exploring theme of self-discovery, detachment, and inner peace. The protagonist Siddhartha reflect Buddhist and Hindu philosophies, rejecting materialism in pursuit of spiritual fulfillment. So Siddhartha not directly connect with Buddhism, but Hermann Hesse tried to relate this idea and create the character of Siddhartha and show his journey about spirituality and fasting and all. Then there is a one passage about spirituality. The river is everywhere at once, at the source and at the mouth, at the waterfall, at the memory, at the rapid in the sea, in the mountain, everywhere at once, and that there is only the present time for it, not the shadow of the past, not the shadow of the future. This metaphor emphasizes the Hindu and Buddhist concept of cyclical existence and the idea of interconnectedness. Then fourth is E.M. Foster's A Passage to India. Foster's novel critique British colonial arrogance and explore cultural misunderstanding by reversing the typical race and rape narrative. Foster exposed the fragility of colonial dominance. The novel reflects India as a culturally rich yet fragmented nation where spiritual complexity contrasts Western rationalism. India, 100 Indians whisper outside beneath the indifferent sky. So this line reflects the vast cultural legacy of India, and he tried to cover the various Indian culture and various belief of India. Then next is Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, was published in 1927. It represents India, symbolizes colonial power, exotism, and material wealth. Woolf's reference evoke India as a distant yet influential presence in British consciousness. Here is some reference from text. For the fact that they negotiate treaty, rule India, control finance. So this line represent the colonial power that how British rule India and try to control people and all India. Then another is the Indian plains. She felt herself pushing aside the thick leather curtain. It represents exotism. And then last one is about material wealth, the opal necklace which Uncle James had brought her from India. So it showed her, it tried to show the material wealth of India, that how much gold and diamonds are important in India. Then final one is Around the World in 18 Days by Jules Verne, was published in 1872. It represents India. Wells' depiction of India reflect a Western stereotype of tradition and mysticism. The infamous Sati episode, where Phyllis Fogg rescue an Indian widow from self-immolation, reinforced the colonial idea of British heroism. So this novel represents the Sati Pratha of India. One woman named Oda was to be sacrificed according to the custom of the country, but the protagonist of the novel, Phyllis Fogg, rescue her, and he think about the condition of women in India. One of the most notable moment in when Phyllis Fogg, the protagonist, save an Indian woman named Oda from being sacrificed through the ancient practice of sati, where widows were expected to self-immolate on their husband's funeral pyre. Then final conclusion, the representation of India in 20th century European literature reveal a tension between admiration and imperial patronization, while Kipling and Vale reinforce colonial stereotype. Now, Foster critique British dominance, and Eliot and Hesse explore Indian spiritual depth. Woolf's portrayal reflect India's presence as a both material and symbolic influence within British consciousness. Each text offer a unique yet incomplete vision of shape by Western literary tradition, political ideology, and spiritual fascination. Here is a reference.
So, Krishna, my question is, how did British authors in 20th century portray India, and how did this shape Western views?
So it shape Western view in both side. It one like Herman Hesse's Siddhartha and Wasteland portrait is a spiritual land, and then Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse and the Passage of India that all shape a view in a chaotic and exotic manner of India. Next.
So, Krishna, my question is that can Indian literature effectively challenge or represent the impact of colonialism?
Yes, so some work like Arundhati Roy's and Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children that all challenge the colonialism and also represent the brutality of British. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Parathiv Solanki. Today my presentation topic is politics of postmodern metafiction, self-reflexivity and historical narratives. These are my information. Table of contents, research question. How does self-reflexivity and postmodern metafiction challenging the traditional history, narratives, and what are the political implications in the shaping the collective memory? In my hypothesis, postmodern metafiction thoughts and the self-reflexivity technique expose the construct the nature of the historical narratives, challenging the objective and reveals the ideological forces shaping them, while the subjectivity and problematization, there's a very possibility for the representation of the historical truth. Introduction is the postmodern metafiction is the representation is not only history but is the representation of the past and what is the truth and is the reflection of the our memory and our views and feelings is the most of the history or written in the postmodern time is not history but is the experience also is the postmodern is the self-aware literary form that the question storytelling and the historical representation by the explosive in own artificiality. It's challenging the historical objectivity, realize the historical contribution, narrative shaping by the ideology and perspectives. And the self-reflexivity is the literature, criticize the history, historiography, making the readers aware how the historical announcing the reframe and reveals. By the beginning, fact and fiction, postmodern text is blurred distinction between the historical truth and the imagination, empathizing the subjectivity. Metafiction work have the political infl- insight and the particularly in the post-colonial and revision histories by the revealing law and dominated the ideology shape the memory and identity. Truth multiple perspective and the fragmented storytelling shape modern metafiction reside the authority, historical narratives, and fostering the pluralistic view in the past. And discussing the very important term in this presentation, the metafiction, self-reflexivity, historiographic metafiction, unreliable narrators, fiction that help the confuse the relevance in the artificially blurring the relativity and the imagination in the text acknowledgement and of the own the constructs the nature, destructing the narrative authority. In a historiographic metafiction is fiction the critique, historical narrative, exploring their blazing and subjectivity. Unreliable narrative is the storytelling who critically uncertain highlight the instability of the truth, intertextuality, the use of the reference and allusion, the challenging the stability and historical discretion, fragmentation, postmodern techniques, the fragmentation, aesthetic, plastic, the parody and non-linear theater, distinction, historical and choices. Framing the past theories and the rewrite of the history is the major person who is the considering the metafiction and historical narration is the in his works. The first hidden white is the in work meta history in 1972. History in narrative history is not an objective record even but construction narrative shaping by the literary tropes elopement and the ideological choice. And second one, the Michael Flocal is the in work archaeology of the acknowledged in 1969 is power of structure shape history silencing the marginalized voice. Third one, the Jane Frankenstein Lyotard is the end of the grand narratives. The postmodernism rejects the over the historical narrative, emphasizing the fermenting multiple perspective in insights. And Linda Uzzonio is the historiographic metafiction. In postmodern metafiction, critique the history by the blending fact and fiction, question reliability and of the historical assessment. In this theory, collectively argue that history, like a fiction and shaped by the narrative techniques, ideology based and power of the structure rather than the objective truth. Fiction as history and history as fiction is always history is written in fact and a true life, but it is the, sometimes is the fiction element also is then added this in postmodern metafiction challenging the objectivity and of history by the reliving in narrative construction. But its Bueller line between the historical fact and fiction, empathizing the subjectivity, ideology, influence in the unreliable narrator and fragment and storytelling expose the insight by historical truth. In novel Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie is history of the world in the chapter 10 and half chapter criticize the dominator historical discussion. The fiction provide the alternative, expective, and ampliating marginalize the voice, often the exclusive from the official histories. A postmodern metafiction relevant to history is not natural recorded, but is selected reconstruction shaping by power, memory, and nature techniques. Unreliable narrators and historical revision is the connected the subjective memory description of the truth power of the perspective most example in literature metafiction in impact the subjectivity of the memory unreliable narrator expose the how the personal basic and selective memory shape in historical accounts and the destructive truth in fictionalize the historical challenges objective truth show the how the narrative can be multiple power of perspective historical revisionism highlight the how the dominant idealism control the framing in history in the literature most example midnight children by Rushdie is the unreliable narrative and fiction is the history and fiction to connected in shaping the this narration, rewriting historical event from the alternative viewpoints, metafiction impact. This is the technique question historical authenticity, using the readers to critically argue with the historical narratives. Postmodern technique in historical fiction. Postmodern writer is the use in the intertextuality, fragmentation, parody, satire, multifiction and description, multiple perspective, and temporal description. In intertextuality, he used the many texts and myth and fictions to write in history. And fragmentation is digested. Storytelling reflects the complexity and unreliability in historical narratives. And parody and satire, he used also. He described the history and political movement in he write in the uh, historical historical movements is mocking traditional historical accounting the reliable basic the ideological manipulation metafiction and description making this illusion reality to highlight the artificiality and historical storytelling multiple perspective is used the perspective uh, representing conflict the viewpoint to raise the single authenticity and version of history temporal description is blending the past represent the future description chronology empathizing the subjective true historical memory political implication in postmodern metafiction is the mostly is the connected in the many writers use the is the term in the political writing and political movements in this time subvision official histories is challenging the administrative narrative exposition history as the construct shaping by the power of ideology. Discontacting grand narratives is reject the singular authority and vision history, embracing the division and embracing perspectives. Critique nationalism and colonialism. Question national building, the myth and exposition, the linger effective of the experientialism historical discourse. Uh, Rewriting marginalize the histories, empathizing the voice historical exclusive from the dominated record official alternative historical viewpoint. Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children is also reflect the Indian story in the and patriarchy and is the added this point in the Midnight Children's view in the 1947 his personal memory and official history is two are the mix and convey the this message the novel blur in the line between the personal collective national history, blowing the how the both subjective and constructed. Unreliable narrative is also added in the fixed two terms in also mix the unreliable and fiction and the historical elements also in this mix. The slam Singians exerted and the fragmented the storytelling highlight the listen, instability historical truth and the fability of memory. This character also reflecting the is the storytelling in the whole novel to is the how this in character and career they represent in the condition magical element historical event criticize the post colonial India in political and social realism is the and intertextuality and myth draw the from the mythology, historical recount, and the literary traditional question history frame and rewriting colonial and legacy. Critically examining the lingering effective British rule in Indian history and identity. Second is Margaret Atwood, the Penelope. This is the most important work is the connected in the uh, Homer's Odyssey, and his character is the connected in this myth and this novel. Feminist review the highlight the silence in voice woman in classical literature, an unreliable narrative. Pelanopios the conflict question the historical and mythological truth is the also describe the how history and this character lady character is representation of the patriarchal is the social condition and is the today's condition chores and makes it grieve by the voice marginalize the figures exposes the injustice historical narratives power of patriarchy is critic the lesser critic is the shaping the history of myth debating the limit of postmodern and metafiction, realism and truth, political base and complexity in accessibility, loss of historical authority, and blending the interpretation, irony, enhancement, and commercialized fiction. In conclusion, postmodern metafiction challenging the nation and historical objectivity by the exposing the power of dynamic that shaping the narratives. It's the position literature as the tool of the resistance, question dynamics, histories, and emphasizing the marginalized voice by the embracing the multiple perspective. It is the descriptive in the singular truth, inviting the readers to engage the articulately with the past. These are my reference. Thank you. Any ask question?
So, Parthiv, my question is how does self-reflexivity in postmodernism, postmodern metafiction challenge the authority of historical narratives and reshape our understanding of the past?
Yes, this is the metafiction and post. It is argue the past is the not only the history is not only past, but is the reflection of the memory and experience is the connected with this type.
So, Parthiv, my question is, what are the political implications of blending fact and fiction in historiographic metafiction, and how does this influence contemporary debates on truth and representation?
Yes, this truth and history and politics, this major element is connected in the Midnight Children. Salman Rushdie's novel is the represent of the Indian situation and Indian national condition, and also is the description of the characters, major characters, is the fictionalization and the truth and mystery. All are the connected and the representations. Okay, thank you.
So, hello everyone. Today's my topic of presentation is stream of consciousness in classical Indian literature and tracing its influence in modern narratives. So, here are my personal informations. Then my aims to explore this topic is like defining then depth of psychological realism in ancient text, blurring boundaries between philosophy and emotions. Then Indian storytelling inspires modern stream of consciousness and digital narratives. Here is table of content, and my research question is how has the stream of consciousness technique in classical Indian literature influenced the evolution of modern narratives in Indian literature, cinema, and digital storytelling. Then my hypothesis is the stream of consciousness technique evident in the classical Indian literature and has profoundly shaped the modern storytelling and the introspective monologues and non-linear thought processes found in the ancient text that have influenced the psychological depth of even contemporary Indian literature, the fragmented narratives of avant-garde cinema, and the immersive nature of digital storytelling, proving its lasting relevance across the mediums. Um, what is stream of consciousness? First of all, though it is literary technique that captures the character's thoughts and feelings in continuous free flowing manner, mimicking the natural unfiltered way of the mind's work, and it often lacks the traditional structure, jumps between idea and uses inner monologue to provide deep psychological insight. Then its origin by originated by William James in his book The Principle of Psychology. Then it's represent continuous unstructured thoughts, and adopted by modernist writers to depict inner consciousness. Key writers are James Joyce, then Virginia Woolf, William Faulkner, then Markel Proust. And stream of consciousness is not merely a string of words, and that therefore what the stream of conscious writer writes is not the transcript, but a simulation of what occurs in the mind. Its characteristics are inner monologue, lack of punctuation marks, non-linear structure, and free association. So ancient text and stream of consciousness, like inner turmoils of character like Sita, Arjuna, Shakuntala, then fragmented thoughts like non-linear spontaneous introspection, mirrors that modern consciousness. Then psychological realism, the deep internal conflict of the characters. And then pre-modernist influence, which also have influence on the modern writers. Then timeless impact, which shape literature, cinema. Then I'll talk regarding three event of the where we find stream of, not directly stream of consciousness as it was evolved in the early 20th century, but we find like archetypal elements. So here we find that here element of stream of consciousness we can connect with our ancient literature. So like in the case of Arjuna, where he feel his internal monologue and structure logical, not structure his thought, he's not clear, he is in dilemma of fear of sin, and his duty vs compassionate, like he was kshatriya but he has to fight, but he was not in that position, and he feels an existential crisis. So this all suggests the inner monologue kind of thing, and element of stream of consciousness we find in this in this event. So here is one quote like which say that I do not desire victory or Krishna, nor a kingdom, nor a pleasure. What is use of kingdom or enjoyment or even life itself? So he is in a dilemma, not clear structured thoughts are there. The second is Sita's monologue in Valmiki Ramayana, which captures the grief, despair, and longing for Rama during his captivity in Lanka. So here is three quotes which continuously suggest that how yeah, she was also feeling this kind, like is feeling grief and crying, oh Rama, oh Rama, oh Lakshmana. Matlab, she's remembering and not having a clear thought. Then she's also pondering, then ultimately death is hard to obtain for a woman or man. Then another thought like this tormented by, here by cruel demons, I bereft of Rama and afflicted, continue to Yes, sir. So, Sita's stream of consciousness here, breakdown of the his fractured mindscape, his inner conflict, a non-linear flow of his thought, and timeless technique. Then another incident of Dushyant's lamentation in Abhignan Shakuntalam, where by Kalidas, so where King Dushyant undergoes a profound psychological turmoil upon recalling Shakuntala after the effect of sage curse when and his inner conflict and fragmented memory, his deep remorse. This all are aligns with the stream of consciousness in narrative technique, like his fragmented memory, emotional fluctuations, his interior monologues. This all suggests the element of stream of consciousness. Then, if we compare if we compare classical and modern stream of consciousness, narrative style, in classical it is expansive, rooted in oral tradition and with monologue, where in modern stream of consciousness it is deeply introspective and fragmented thoughts, like in and then time structure, if we see, past and present, where in modern time it is disjointed, mirroring spontaneous thoughts and pattern. Then if we talk about philosophical depth, so in classical it is metaphysical, weaving karma and dharma and this all cosmic order. But in modern time, we talk about psychological, that delving into existential crises. Then emotional expression, so in classical literature, poetic, symbolic and reflective, where in modern stream of consciousness, intimate, then unfiltered and deeply personal thoughts. Then if we talk influence on modern, its influence on modern Indian literature, so we find that Arundhati Roy is the god of small thing, where we also find this use of this technique. Then Amitabh Ghosh and Salman Rushdie's works. Then its influence on Indian cinema, if we see, so two movies I have taken here, like one is Tamasha, where also narrative switching between reality and imagination. Second is Udan. So in that also psychological journey of this protagonist, we find here. Then influence of a digital storytelling, not directly influence, but it kind of shaping the thing, like social media and micro narrative, Instagram poetry and Twitter thread, which show the fragmented and introspective thoughts of our. Then AI interactive story telling, like AI tool like ChatGPT and pseudo write create fluid free flowing narratives, then which resemble stream of consciousness writing. Then hypertext fiction and VR virtual realities game also depict that. Then in gaming and digital literature, like games like Disco Elysium, in which your character is a detective, and you have choice to play rather than fight. Your choice is matter there. So this all suggests the elements of stream of consciousness. Then in conclusion, we can say the stream of consciousness, from classical Indian epics to modern literature, cinema and digital media, remains a powerful narrative technique, and it captures the human thought in its raw non-linear form, seen in Arjun's dilemma, like and Sita's soliloquy, and modernist novels, films, AI storytelling and gaming. And as storytelling evolves, this technique continue to shape how we experience narratives today. These are my references, and thank you. So now you are free, feel free to ask the questions.
So, Trupti, my question is, what role did modernist writer play in the evolution of stream of consciousness as a literary technique?
so in early 20th century, modernist writers like James Joyce, then Virginia Woolf, they make this technique, they make key figure, they make this technique main, and they technically use this technique to explore the character's inner thoughts and his monologues and all these things. So their contribution was main to shape this literary technique.
My question is, how does the stream of consciousness technique capture the subconsciousness and censures the experience in the literature?
So basically, stream of consciousness technique, writer use them to depict the inner conflict and inner monologue of the character into real world. So basically, it shows the inner conflict and all the dilemmas of the character into real world. Okay, so this was from my side. Thank you.
Okay, so very good morning, everyone. This is Bhumi Mahida. On the very first day of presentation, I'm here with a presentation on social media and the digital stream of consciousness. These are the academic information, table of content. So now we'll discuss introduction. So as we all know that what is stream of consciousness, like a flow of thoughts, experience and feelings. So this term introduced by William James. So now we'll discuss what is digital stream of consciousness. So a modern phenomenon shaped by social media where thoughts and interactions occur in a fragmented yet continuous online space. Users engage with multiple digital streams, including notifications, comments, and real-time updates. Now is it? Yes. So shall I start from? So very good morning, everyone. This is Bhumi Maidar. So on the very first day of presentation, I'm here with the presentation on social media and the digital stream of consciousness. These are academic information, table of content, and now we'll discuss introduction. So first of all, what is stream of consciousness? As we all know that stream of consciousness is like a flow of thoughts, experience, and feelings. So what is digital stream of consciousness? A modern phenomenon shaped by social media where thoughts and interactions occur in a fragmented yet continuous online space. Users engage with multiple digital streams, including notifications, comments, and real-time updates. So hypothesis of my presentation is the rise of social media has reshaped human cognition by replicating the stream of consciousness, leading to both enhanced digital connectivity and the fragmented thoughts process, thereby influencing psychological well-being and the way individuals engage with information. Research question is, what are the cognitive and psychological impact of a continuous digital engagement on attention and self-reflection? So now we discuss the evolution of thought processing. So traditional thought process, pre-digital era, when this digital social media and digital era was not there. So before the rise of digital technology, human thought was a linear and self-reflective. This means that people engage in a deep, uninterrupted thinking, allowing them to process information sequentially and coherently. Like when we discuss that key characteristic, so sustained attention, people could focus on a single task for a long period without a distraction. So when social media and digital technology was not there, so people only focus on a one or single task for very long period without any distractions. And then logical progression of ideas, so thoughts follow a structure, cause and effect sequence, and memory retention without constant external stimuli. Individuals relate more and recall and critical thinking. Now digital age thought process. So the advent of social media and digital technology has a transformed cognition, making a thought fragmented, rapid and reactive. Information now comes in a short bursts, requiring constant switching between ideas. So nowadays we all are using these social media and digital various platforms. So nowadays people mind like not focusing on one or single task for a very long period. Like they are continuously switching between the ideas. Like shortened attention spans, frequent notifications, algorithm driven content lead to shallow engagement. So now when we work in a mobile phone, like write a blog post or whatever we are doing, so when notifications comes or messages come, so we are like let me check first notifications, let me check first messages. So our mind, our thought process is continuously switching, right? And non-linear thinking, social media promotes associative thinking, where users jump between unrelated topics. So as I mentioned that we are continuously switching or jumps unrelated topics. External validation and reaction based on processing. Thought is increasingly shaped by likes, comments, and trends, leading to impulsive engagement. When we post something on Instagram, on Facebook, and whatever these platforms, so we are like, let me check first, kone like kairi, kone comment kairi. So our mind is continuously engaged with this stuff only. Now the role of social media. Social media is a cognitive environment. Social media platforms like a Twitter and Facebook act as a continuous thought stream, where users constantly shift between self-reflection and external validation. This creates a collective consciousness where ideas are shaped by immediate feedback and trends. How social media mimics a stream of consciousness, continuous updates, uninterrupted thoughts flow, endless scrolling mirrors the non-linear and spontaneous nature of human thoughts. So as we observe that very young age child to the very old age people are using a smartphone and social media and various platforms. So and algorithmic suggestions, subconscious trigger, AI driven recommendation guide attention like a subconscious association in a stream of consciousness narrative. Psychological impact. So there are positive effect as well as negative effect. So encourages expression and creativity, for self-expression, storytelling, and artistic creativity. Users engage in a spontaneous, free-flowing communication, similar to the stream of consciousness technique. enhances connectivity and knowledge sharing. Instant access to diverse perspectives fosters global discussion and collaborative learning. Social media serve as a digital knowledge hub where users can quickly engage with new ideas. Then negative effects reduce attention span and cognitive overload. Constant exposure to fast-paced, algorithm-driven content fragmented focus, making deep thinking difficult. Users struggle with information overload, leading to shallow processing of idea. And digital fatigue and mental fragmentation. The never ending influx of notifications causes mental exhaustion and difficulty in maintaining long term focus. Excessive engagement with the social media blurs the boundary between a conscious reflection and impulsive reaction, uh, im- uh, impact, impacting emotional well being. So case studies and examples, so live tweeting and instant reactions. Example, Twitter trends influencing global discourse. Twitter enable real time thoughts expression where users react instantly to events, much like a stream of consciousness narrative. Trending topics shape public opinion, influencing news cycles, politics and cultural discussions. Then digital activism and awareness. So example, hashtag me too and black lives matter movements. So these both are the social global movements in which social media can amplify voices and create a global awareness and push for social changes. So hash, hashtag me too and hashtag black lives matter transform individual experience into global movements, illustrating how digital platform externalize and amplify thoughts. This companion functions as a collective stream of consciousness where shared experiences create real world social change. Social media activism shaped public consciousness by keeping critical issues in the spotlight and mobilizing communities. The future of digital consciousness. The rise of contextual awareness in social media. Platform may shift towards context sensitive interactions, ensuring users engage with meaningful content rather than fragmented information. And cognitive management in digital spaces. Future social media may integrate features to manage information overload, helping users filter and process thoughts more effectively. Human versus machine thought integration. As AI becomes a more embedded in digital communication, the distinction between human thought and machine generated suggestions will blur, impacting decision making and self-expression. As we all know that nowadays the trend of Ghibli style, Ghibli art images. So we are continuously ask ChatGPT to please create a Ghibli art, please convert this image into Ghibli style. So this AI becomes a more this more embedded in digital. This far better than this machine are far better than for the digital era. Now, conclusion: social media has transformed the way we think and interact, closely mirroring the stream of consciousness by creating a continuous, fragmented flow of thoughts, ideas, and reactions. While it enhances self-expression, creativity, and global connectivity, it also contributes to cognitive overload, reduced attention spans, and digital fatigue. The increasing role of algorithms in shaping what we see and engage with raises important questions about autonomy in thought processing. As digital spaces continue to evolve, a more mindful approach to social media use is essential to maintain cognitive balance and psychological well-being. These are my references. And yes, thank you. Now I would like your question.
Bhumi, my question to you is social media shaping our thoughts or we are shaping social media?
Yes. influence each other. So like we create a content and share the ideas, but social media platforms use algorithm to decide what we have to do or what we see. So like it is a two-way process. We shaped social media, as well as social media also shaped us.
My question is, can social media fiction as a collective congenesis?
As per my point of view, yes, we can take example like this both movements, global social global movements, hashtag Me Too and hashtag this Black Lives Matter. So it creates a global share, a global awareness and individual thought process to like individual thought process for this opinion and even policy changes and everything. So yes, social media function as a collective consciousness. So yes, thank you so much.
Hello everyone, myself KHUSHI GOSWAMI. Today's my presentation topic is Trapped in the Absurd. Comparative study of the birthday party was Andhadhun. It explore the theme of absurdity and disillusionment. These are my academic information. Table of content. My research question is how do the birthday party by Harold Pinter and Andhadhun by Sriram Raghavans utilize absurdism, meanness and deception to challenge conventional notions of reality and power? My hypothesis is both the birthday party and Andhadhun employs absurdist techniques and unreliable narrators and shifting power dynamics to create an atmosphere of psychological tension. By blurring the boundaries between truth and illusion, these works reinforce the idea that control and meaning are arbitrary constructs, leaving their protagonist in a state of existential uncertainty. Introduction of the birthday party. The Birthday Party is a play written by Harold Pinter. It was published in 1957. It embodying the essence of absurdist theater. It presents a world where meaning is elusive and power operates through the elusive forces. The story follows Stanley, our protagonist, a reclusive man who seems to be hiding from something. Through the audience never learn exactly what. When two men arrived, Goldberg and Macon, their subject of Stanley to psychological torment without clear motive. This play explored the theme of existential fear, power, and the breakdown of communication. Introduction of Andhadhun. This movie directed by Sriram Raghavan. It released in 2018. It revolves around Akash, a blind pianist who is caught in a web of lies, crime, and deception. The narrative constantly shifts with Akash playing both victim and manipulator. The movie explored the theme of perception, fate, and unpredictable nature of truth. Absurdism and the uncertainty of reality. The birthday party. Stanley existence is questioned and external threats appear from nowhere. His past is unknown and reality seems to collapse around him. Uh, in the film Andhadhun, Akash's deception about blindness leads to an ever eclectic, absurd reality where truth is unstable. So here, both the narrative present reality as a fluid and unreliable, rejecting conventional storytelling structure. So both are challenges to audience, their expectation, and force them to question what is real. The theme of meanness and power games. In the play, Goldberg and Macon wield psychological power over Stanley, subjecting him to an interrogation that lacked clearing purpose. So, in the film, power is constantly shifting Shimi and Akash. The various criminals all takes turn being in the control. The protagonists are caught in sinister mind games that strip them of agency. In the birthday party, Stanley is reducing to a helpless state without any logical expectation. Or in the film, power keeps shifting. Shimi initially holds control, but Akash later augments her only to find himself in a new dangerous. So these unstable power dynamics are key to both works, reinforcing their themes of existential uncertainty. Language and Absurdist dialogue. In the birthday party, Pinter's dialogue famous for its ambiguity. So, in the plays, language is fragmented, filled with contradiction, repetition, and non-sequences that create an unsettling atmosphere. Or in the film, Andhadhun uses witty dialogues and to similar effect as language becomes a means to confuse even reality itself is being meaningless. So in the both work uses language as a tool of control and disorientation. Pinter's cryptic cycling dialogue keeps the audience on edge, and Raghavan's fast iconic conversation keeps the audience second guessing reality. So here are the examples of dialogue, a play, and the movie. In the play, Birthday Party, this repetiting of question, it used to questioning about religious and philosophical inquiry, but ultimately these are meaningless. So instead of deeper understanding, it erased the reality of character, and Stanley becomes significant. Similarly, in the Andhadhun, Inspector Manohar and Simi's conversation are focusing on highlight contradiction between serious responses and the absurd responses. These highlight the dark humor of the film. Like Goldberg and Macon, Inspector Manohar uses empty words to delay from real action. So, deception and unreliable perception. The birthday party, Stanley's identity and past are ambiguous. By the end, he is stripped of agency and reducing to silence. Or in the film, Akash constantly deceives other, but in the end, the audience itself is unsure of what is real. So, both the challenge the audience ability to trust what they see and hear. In conclusion, the birthday party and Andhadhun conventional narratives, immersing audiences in an unpredictable world. Pinter's play creates a claustrophic Makin's world where Stanley is very existential in a question. So Raghavan's film turned deception into a game, but one that spirals. So both work leaves audiences unsettled, forcing them to confront that idea that control and certainty are illusion. Absurdism is used to highlight existential uncertainty, where meaning or identity are unstable. Power, meanness, and deception dominate both story making characters, pioneers of an indifferent or chaotic world. These are my references, and thank you. Feel free to ask anyone has a question.
So, Khushi, my question is to you. Can we trust any character fully in these stories?
No, because in the birthday party or in the film Andhadhun, characters are lies. They hide in the film or play, hide their secrets and act strangely. So that's why this keeps audience keeping question what is real. That's why we cannot trust any character fully in these stories.
So, Khushi, my question is why is uncertainty a major theme in both the works?
In both the works, characters are represent as absurd. In the case of Stanley, he doesn't know why he being targeted by Goldberg and Macon. Or in the case of Akash, his blindness is always doubted. So these continuously keep audience feeling lost, just like the characters. That's why uncertainty is a major theme in the works. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today I am dealing with my topic, the absurd element in the birthday party, a comparison with Beckett's Waiting for Godot. Here are my personal information and these are the table of contents and this is my research questions. How do the birthday party by Harold Pinter and Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett embody absurdist element and what do this element reveal about existential uncertainty and the human condition and hypothesis? Both the birthday party and Waiting for Godot utilize absurdist elements such as illogical structure, fragmented dialogue, and existential uncertainty to challenge traditional narrative forms. Will Pinter's play creates psychological menace through ambiguous threats. Beckett's work highlights existential stagnation through endless waiting. These elements reflect the absurdist belief that life is meaningless, unpredictable, and devoid of a clear resolution. And these are the introduction. The theater of the absurd, coined by Martin Esslin, portrayed as a chaotic, meaningless world using unconventional storytelling, fragmented dialogue, and ambiguous characters. Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party 1957 and Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot 1953 are key absurdist plays. Pinter creates a psychological menace and uncertainty. Beckett depicts existential stagnation and futility. This compares their plot, characters, what is the absurdism? Absurdism is the idea that human life has no inherent meaning, and any attempt to find one leads to confusion and frustration. It was influenced by Albert Camus, the myth of Sisyphus, and is a key features of the theater of the absurd, a term coined by Martin Esslin. Key features of the absurdist drama: illogical plot. event seem random and meaningless, repetitive and confusing dialogue. Characters struggle to communicate. Unclear identity. Character contradicts themselves, it forget details. Minimal or stranger settings reflect existential emptiness, no clear resolution place, and without closer reinforcing uncertainty. And examples: in the birthday party, reality is uncertain and characters' motives are ambiguous. In waiting for Godot, two characters wait endlessly for someone who never arrives, symbolizing the futility of hope. Absurdist plays highlighting the chaos and unpredictability of human existence. An absurd element in the birthday party. First, a lack of logical plot. Stanley's life is disrupted without clear reason, and his fate remains unknown. Second, uncertainty and meaninglessness. Characters' past motives and identities are ambiguous. And third, disjointed and contradictory dialogue. Conventions are fragmented, repetitive, and filled with poses. Fourth, fear and psychological menace. Goldberg and McCain creates an atmosphere of paranoia and oppression. And fifth, no clear resolution. Stanley is taken away, but no explanation is given, reinforcing existential uncertainty. Absurd element in the waiting for Godot. Lack of logical plot. Vladimir and Stragon wait endlessly for Godot, who never arrives. Circular and repetitive structure. Events repeat with no real progress, emphasizing stagnation. And third, illogical and contradictory dialogue. Conversation are fragmented, nonsensical, and repetitive. And fourth, uncertainty and meaninglessness. Time, memory, and reality are unclear. Characters for past events, no clear resolution. The play ends as it begins, reinforcing the futility of human existence. Comparison of absurd elements. Both the birthday party and waiting for Godot use absurdist element in the different ways. In a plot, the birthday party has psychological menace with Stanley facing an unknown threat, while waiting for Godot focusing on endless waiting without purpose. Structure differs as a painter's play in unpredictable various. Beckett's is circular and repetitive. Dialogue in the birthday party is disjointed and contradictory, while in waiting for Godot it is repetitive and nonsensical. Both plays emphasizing uncertainty, meaninglessness, and isolation. Stanley is trapped in a hostile world, while Vladimir and Stragon are struck in meaningless cycle. Neither play offers a clear resolution, reinforcing the absurdist view of life's futility. Time in the birthday party and waiting for Godot. Meaninglessness of life. Stanley's sudden downfall, the birthday party, and endless waiting for waiting for Godot show life's futility. And second, uncertainty. Characters past and motives remains unclear in both plays. And third, breakdown of communication. Dialogue is fragmented, contradictory, and repetitive. And fourth, power and oppression. Goldberg and McCain dominate. Stanley will pose controls Lucky. And fifth, isolation and loneliness. Stanley is trapped, while Vladimir and Stragon are struck in the empty world. In finally conclusion, both birthday party and waiting for Godot reflect absurdist theater, emphasizing uncertainty, meaninglessness, and failed communication. Pinter creates a psychological menace through Stanley's explained downfall, and Beckett's presents existential stagnation with endless futile waiting. Neither play provides a clear resolution, reinforcing the absurdist idea that the life is unpredictable and lacks inherent meaning. And here are my references, and thank you. Now you are free and ask me a question.
Jyoti, my question is, what is the significance of waiting in both plays?
In the waiting for Godot, in the wait is the symbolized in the in the waiting for Godot, and the meaninglessness, life, and repetition, and meaningless life and absurdism in the birthday, in the waiting for Godot. And next.
So, Jyoti, my question is, what makes waiting for Godot more abstract than the birthday party?
Waiting for Godot in the buckets represent in the absurd word in the, elements in the waiting for Godot, and the Pinter use of the domestic element in the birthday party. Here I am.
So, hello everyone, I am JYOTI, and today I will deal with the unseen authority, bureaucracy, and surveillance and totalitarian echoes in the birthday party. Here are my academic details and presentations details. Table of content. Research question: how does Pinter's portray power and control as a psychological rather than a physical in the birthday party? Hypothesis: Harold Pinter's research question. Here is my research question. How does Pinter portray powers and control as a psychological rather than physical in birthday party? Harold Pinter. This is a hypothesis. Surveillance-driven operations illustrating how power function not through directly violence but thought ambiguity, psychological manipulations, and the ensure of individual identity. The play's use of absurd dialogue, faceless authority figure, and ritualistic interrogation mirror real-world authoritarian tactics, reinforcing the idea that controls thrives in silence and complaints. Introduction to theme Comedy of Venus and its political undertone. So, Comedy of Venus is a mixing of humor and underlying threat and tension. The term Comedy of Venus was originally applied to Harold Pinter's another two plays, The Room and The Dumb Writer. Describes sorts of blend humor with underlying threat and tension. These plays present ordinary setting and characters, but introduce a sense of which challenges the character's sense of identity and reality. Traditionally viewed as absurd or ambiguous, The menace is the random but tool of power, control, and ideological domain. This is told by Abdul Khair. Pinter's early plays reflect post-World War II fears about authority, surveillance, and uh, erosion of personal freedom, and use language, silence, and confusion as a tool, and mental and social subjugations. The political undertones lies how this play reveal system of control that manipulate reality, silence distance, and keep individuals trapped in fear and uncertainty, often without visible violence. While Pinter's comedy of meanness seems subtle and personal, they carry strong political implications, exposing how power operates invisibly, not through the direct force, but through mental manipulations and silence. As we know, in this birthday party, Meccan and Goldberg both are Stanley's. Means he is a force to him, not physically. They both are forced to mentally and take control over him. This is brief overview of the play. The play have three acts, and in setting is a boarding house, and focus on Stanley. And there are two mysterious strangers, Goldberg and Meccan. What brings a casual birthday celebrations become increasingly sinister and surreal. We think that a birthday party like a cake and celebration and happiness and everything, but here is not idea of like that. Explores themes of identity, fear, control, and psychological manipulations. A classical example, Pinter's comedy of meanness, mixing dark humor with tension and unace. This is the birthday party. Goldberg and Meccan as agent of the unseen system. As we all know that we have not introduced to this both character in this play, that who they are and where they are come from. Goldberg and Meccan symbolize faceless. In the play also their face is not visible, or oppressive system arrives without clear motives or identities. Their presence introduce existential terror, enforcing conformity and dismantling individual freedom through psychological pressure and absurd questioning. They erase Stanley's identity, reflecting a world of meaningless and nihilism. That Goldberg and Meccan both are continuously questioned to Stanley, and he's changed his mind and erase his past and everything. Their meanness lies in ambiguity. They represent systematic power that acts without logic, transparency, or mercy. Theme insight: they are not just men; they are instruments of control, exposing how modern system crush personal anatomy. Surveillance and psychological control. Goldberg and Meccan acts as enforcers of an unseen authoritarian system. They're using interrogation, ambiguity, and guilt to control Stanley without physical violence. Stanley is dehumanized and reduced to silence, symbolize loss of identity. As you know that at the end of this play, Stanley is don't speak. He is forget to speak, and also they both are crack his wisdom or insight. Parallels drawn with real worlds. Censorship of writer like Rushdie, Hugo, Pasternak, Gramsci, based on Gramsci's power controls through ideology, not force. Theme inside. Painters expose how mental surveillance and fear can destroy individual and enforce quite obedience under invisible power. The bureaucratic language of interrogation. Goldberg and Macon use a bureaucratic impersonal language to establish control over Stanley. They both are making fear in Stanley and control him. Techniques of interrogations over informativeness. As I told before that they both are continuously asking question and making fear and helplessness. Circums and metaphor use they are use metaphor as a plague and date to script identity. Ambiguity and obscurity creates confusion, making Stanley powerless. That they both are asking so many questions and make Stanley confusion in mind. These linguistic manipulations mirror real world interrogations. Textics provide language can be weapon of operation. As we know that they both are not means not doing any physical things. They both are only use words and then they make control of on him. Pinter shows how speech alone can enforce submissions, making bureaucratic language a silence form of violence. Loss of identity and institutional ensure. Goldberg and Macon use multiple manipulative language to erase Stanley's identity through verbal attacks and contradictions. Language and power. Those who control speech control identity. Stanley is distracted until he can't resist. We in this play there is not any past of Stanley. And after that they both Goldberg and Macon come and make a new identity of Stanley and forget his past. Culpeper and impoliteness theory represent face theatering acts destroy Stanley's social and psychological self. Spencer Otis reports model. Stanley is isolated and silence, showing installations national insure through Corcoin, not violence. Stanley's final silence, total submission. As I also told that Stanley is at the end he is not speaking anything. Pinter's reveals how weaponized language erodes identity, showing that losing control over speech means losing existence. The absence of the named authority. No clear authority. We know that in this play there is no authority, and Goldberg and Macon are agent of any power or authority, but there is no. It is not visual. Power remains invisible, abstract, and inescapable. Goldberg and Macon enforce control but never reveals who they work for. As I said that they don't we don't know who they are and where from they come, but also we don't know that to whom he is doing this work. Stanley is accused to betraying as an unknown organization, yet no details are given. The interrogation sense mirror totalitarian operations. Language, not violence, is tool of control. The lack of named authority creates paranoia, fear, and submissions. Power works best when its source is unclear. Pinter suggests that authority is most effective when it remains unseen, leaving individuals powerless and unable to resist. Pinter's political subtext, critical or of authoritarianism. The play reflects oppressive power structures using interrogations tactics. Goldberg and Macon use absurdity, terror, and nonsense, mirroring real world psychological manipulations. Inspired by CIA tactics. CIA is one government's means one authority which is in UA or US. From that, he is give example. Pinter give example to this that they are bring information from another countries and there is no any meaning. Corcoran methods for the allies in the Wonderland interrogation manual. Audience as a witness and accomplice. Pinters makes the audience complicit in power dynamics by withholding a clear meaning. Authority thrives on ambiguity. Fear is a create thought, linguistic confusion, and mental dominations rather than psychological force. Pinter exposed how modern political system use language and uncertainty to control individuals. Domestic space as a site of invention. The boarding house is in birthday party. The boarding house is heterotopia as a a space that is both home and a site of control. Goldberg and Macon arise turn into a place of psychological invention. Multiple role of a boarding house, a home. As we know that Stanley is also he is there and he is isolating from outside worlds. He did out. He seeks refuge but remains trapped. Stanley is think that he is escaped from everything and anything, but he don't know that he is trapped. In a interrogations room, language replaces violence. This is a context to that Goldberg and Macon. They both are come and making discussion with languages and make violence. A symbolic worm. Stanley is forced into new identity. At the end, he is forget about past and he is forget his own identity. The ambiguous setting creates uncertainty and fear, reinforcing Pinter's themes of power and control. Pinter transformed domestic space into a paradox, a place of belonging, invention, and transformation. Demonizations through ritual and performance. Rituals as a control. The birthday party becomes a ceremony of ensure breaking Stanley's identity. Birthday party is not looking like now birthday party in this play. They both are change his identity, Stanley's identity, and take over him in power. Defamiliarization is a ordinary event. A birthday turns into a unsettling act of oppression. Interrogations are rituals. Goldberg and Macon representative questioning, contradictions, and absurdity reduces Stanley to submission. Symbolic actions. The drum gift. In this drum, we can see Stanley as a childish person. Stanley is infantilized. Blind for folding and breaking glasses. As I also mentioned that they both are break is sights or wisdom. Forced silence, ultimate dehumanization. Theoretically, operations, public rituals, erase individual under oppressive system. Theme Pinter's exposes how rituals and performance are used to strip people or identity, forcing submission through psychological consequence. The role of memory and historical ensure memory as oppression. Stanley's past is ambiguous, and Goldberg and Macon rewrite his history to make him down. Historical ensure Stanleys represent those whose identities are erased by authoritarian forces. I also mentioned these both things. Psychological breakdown, the interrogation sense manipulates memory, causing loss of identity and reality. Um, Absurdist influence reflects post-war fear, how people are stripped of history, meaningless, and power. Theme Pinter shows how memory is fragile. When history is controlled, individual identity disappears. The audience is as a complicated observer. Belonging comedy and meanness. The play mixes laughter with discomfort, making the audiences question their reactions. Forced participations. Viewers witnesses Stanley dehumanizations, unsure, stay detached. General uncertainty, shifting tones, disorient the audience, forcing them into a passive yet a guilty role. Moral dilemmas. The audience's inactions mirrors real world complicated in operations. Pinter challenges viewers, making them silent participations in Stanley's psychological breakdown. As you all know that audience are confused that what they have to do in this birthday party. So they are first they are making this emotion. After that they are feel guilt, okay, what they have to do and what emotion they have to feel or they have to express. Conclusion. Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party exposes how power operates through fear, surveillance, and psychological control rather than direct violence. Goldberg and Macon symbolize faceless authority using interrogations, language, and memory ensures to strip Stanley of his identity. The domestic space becomes a site of invention, and the audience is made complicated in the Operation Pinter reveals that true control thrives in ambiguity and silence, forcing us to confront the unseen forces that shape and suppress individuality. Here is the references. You can ask me question.
Jay, my question is, how does Pinter use power dynamics between men and women in the play?
So in the play, Pinter uses power dynamics through the Meg. She was kind and kind, but she is powerless, and she is happy in small things like serving tea and talking with Stanley and everything. But Macon and Goldberg are on power, and Meg is don't know that what is happening in his house, and she is not questioning. So that is reflects that women are not able to questioning men figure or men authority.
My question for you, why is the authority in the play never clearly defined?
Because authority is more powerful in invisible. As we know that in the play, there is a invisible authority, and someone is if someone is don't know who is control them, then uh, they can feel helplessness. uh, that's why that's why
So, hello everyone. Good afternoon to all. And today's my presentation topic is why the birthday party remains relevant today. So, let's begin. Here is my academic information. This is table of contents which we will discuss in detail. This is research questions. In what ways does Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party illustrate the impact of social conformity and existential anxiety in a world dominated by surveillance and power structure? And hypothesis is Pinter's birthday party remains relevant today as it portrayed how societal pressures and authoritarian forces strip individuals of autonomy, reflecting modern concerns over state control, cancel culture, and the loss of personal freedom in contemporary society. Then, introduction. Harold Pinter was a British screenwriter, playwright, director, and actor. He written many plays in his early life, like The Room, Betrayal, The Birthday Party, and etc. Here, the Harold Pinter, The Birthday Party, 1957, remains relevant today for its exploration of power, oppression, and existential dread. The play's ambiguous plot and fragmented dialogue reflects modern anxiety about surveillance, psychological manipulations, and the breakdown of communication in a digital age. Themes of paranoia, isolation, and the fear of unknown resonate with contemporary concerns about personal freedom and societal pressures. Pinter's comedy of meanness style captures the unsettling tension between free will and external control, making the play as thought-provoking today as it was at its debut. Then, themes that still resonate today. In this play, main theme like fear, psychological manipulations, loss of identity, and illusion of safety is the first, uncertainty and fear. Uncertainty and fear represent like modern politics, surveillance, social paranoia, and cancel culture. Then power and psychological manipulation, authoritarian control, media propaganda, and corporate coercion. Then loss of identity and existential crisis, digital identity issues, deep fakes means fake news, and mental health struggles. Then breakdown of communication, post-truth, politics, social media, misinterpretations, echo chambers. Then illusion of safety, smart home surveillance, refuse displacement, and loss of privacy. And then the political and social allegory. Here the 4 point of political and social allegory. And here the first point is oppression and totalitarianism. In this play, two characters like Goldberg and Macon represent strangers and like authoritarian power. How they using fear, as some power and to suppress some individuality. No, individuality, contemporary parallel like mass media, mass media, totalitarianism, and etc. Then second point is propaganda and psychological manipulations. The interrogating scene between the Goldberg Macon and the Stanley Weber. Stanley Weber. It's brainwashing tactics there, and how where the where language is distort like a power and etc. Etc. And this parallel like a misinformation, mass media propaganda and etc. Third point is fear as a tool of control. The constant concept of meanness. It's like a comedy of meanness. Comedy of meanness reflects like a fear is a powerful tool of anything control, like as a Goldberg and Macon represent fear through Goldberg and Macon are both control Stanley Weber's fear. Then fourth point is social alienation and identity crisis. Stanley Weber's eraser of alienation and own identity crisis, making them into safe spaces of individuality, and like contemporary parallel like mental health struggles and identity crisis and etc. Then psychological anxiety in the modern world, uncertainty and existential dread, fear of the unknown person. As we know, what is the major point of this play. Then unpredictability, economic instability, and global crisis cause anxiety. Then second point is oppressive authority and surveillance, control manipulations, mass surveillance, cancel cultures, and paranoia dominate modern life. Third point is loss of identity and psychological breakdown, forced identity erasure, social media pressures, fragmented identity, and self-worth anxiety. Then Pinter's language and its modern echoes. Earlier, as Jay mentioned in his presentation, the power of silence and pause. Pinter's poses create tension and psychological pressures. In modern times, awkward silence in texting and online meetings lead to anxiety and misinterpretation. Then repetitive and circular conversation, dialogue loops without meaning, creating disorientation. This reflect political speeches, media propaganda, and algorithm driven social media where repetition shape a perception. And then comedy of meanness through everyday language, simple phrases takes on a similar undertones, like why don't you just sit down, today gaslighting in relationship, corporate manipulation, and AI generated message created similar unease. Then contradiction and meaninglessness, words lose authenticity, as in we are here to help you while doing the opposite. Modern parallel include political rhetoric, corporate jargon, and AI driven misinformation that obscure truth. And then the absurdity of existence means the absurdity of existence mean the dramatic movement that uses unconventional plots and techniques to convey the human existence. Here in the birthday party play, Pinter's play reflects absurdist philosophy, portraying life as meaningless and chaotic. Stanley Weber's monotonous existence, the breakdown of communications, and the control exerted by Goldberg and Macon, highlighting existential anxiety. The play explores themes of identity loss, uncertainty, and fate, showing how individuals struggle in an indifferent world where free will is an illusion. Then contemporary staging and adaptation. Here the 2 points. First one is modern visual and theatrical techniques.
Contemporary production use a claustrophobic sets, designs, multimedia effects, and psychological realism to enhance the play's menace and existential dread. Technology, lighting, and soundscapes amplify the themes of paranoia and identity crisis. Then, second point is political and social reinterpretations. Adaptations frame the play within modern authoritarianism, surveillance and institutional control, diverse casting, gender swap roles, and corporate or political oppression and existential anxieties. And here the conclusion. Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party endures as a chilling reflection of existential dread, societal controls, and the fragility of identity. Its menacing language, silence, and psychological ambiguity mirror contemporary anxieties, be it surveillance, alienation, or the absurdity of existence, adaptable across time and political landscapes. The play remains a stark, unsettling critique of power, truth, and the human conditions. And this is my references. And thank you. Now you are feel free to ask question.
Divya, my question.
The birthday party illustrate as the impact of social conformity. Goldberg and Macon take place as authoritarian some control and power, and they are both stranger. They are both stranger, and then Stanley Weber's Stanley Weber is acted as they are both says, and that time a breakdown of conformity is a portrayed by Harold Pinter.
Divya, my question for you, how does the birthday party reflect the psychological anxieties of the modern world?
Yes, Jyoti. The birthday party reflects the psychological anxiety in modern world. Harold Pinter uses comedy of meanness, like similar ways
modern anxiety through he portrayed some vision of everyday's life, everyday's language, and psychological manipulations by everyone. So this is from my side. Thank you. Okay. Hello everyone, myself Dhruvika Gohel. Today I present my presentation topic is influence of the theater of the birthday party in the birthday party. This is my personal information. This is our table of content. This is my research question and hypothesis. Research question is, how does Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party reflects the key characteristics of the theater of the absurd, and what impact does absurdist theater have on the play's themes and structures? Hypothesis is, Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party embodies the theater of the absurd through its ambiguous plot, illogical dialogue, and pervasive sense of meanness, demonstrating how absurdist techniques create a world of uncertainty, existence, anxiety, and communication breakdown. These elements challenge traditional storytelling and reinforce the play's exploration of identity, power, and the instability of reality, making it a defining example of absurdist drama in modern theater. This is about Harold Pinter biography. And next, introduction to the theater of the absurd. The theater of the absurd emerged in the mid 20th century, influenced by the disillusionment of World War II and existentialist philosophy, particularly the work of Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre. It rejects traditional narrative structures, presenting plays that highlight the irrationality and uncertainty of human existence. These works distorts reality, breakdown communication, and depict even that dephologic, reflecting life's unpredictably. Next is Harold Pinter and the and the theater of the absurd. Harold Pinter is a key figure in the theater of the absurd, known for his use of minimalist dialogue, ambiguity, and underlying meanness. While his work is less extreme than Samuel Beckett's or Eugene Lonseco's, it shares themes uncertainty, isolation, and the breakdown of communication. His plays create tension through Pinteresque pauses and silence, emphasizing what is left unsaid rather than spoken. In the birthday party, Pinter's use absurdist elements like an ambiguous plot, characters, and unexplained threats. The play follows Stanley Wu's quiet life is disproved by the mysteries Goldberg and McCain. Wu interrogate him without clear reason. Their illogical dialogue and shifting identities reinforce the absurdist idea that life is unpredictable and meaningless is elusive. Language, failure, and fragility of human relationship. His unique style has left a lasting impact on modern theater, shaping dramatic storytelling with ambiguity, psychological tension, and atmosphere of meanness. Absurdist element in the birthday party, ambiguous plot and uncertainty. The story lacks clear explanation, and the character's motivation remain mysterious, reflecting an absurdist theme of existential confusion. Next is illogical and nonsensical dialogue. Conversation are often circular, repetitive, or meaningless, highlighting the breakdown of communication. Use of silence and pauses. Pinter's signature Pinteresque pauses create tension and emphasize what is left unsaid rather than spoken.
Unexplained threat and menace. Goldberg and McCann's interrogation of Stanley lacks a clear reason, reinforcing the absurdist idea of an irrational and threatening world, mix of comedy and fear. The plays blends dark humor with psychological tension, creating unsettling contrast, typical absurdist theater. Lack of resolution. The plays end without clear answer of closure, leaving the audience in a state of uncertainty, mirroring the absurdist of life. Language and salience in the birthday party. Breakdown of communication. Dialogue in the play is often fragmented, repetitive, or nonsensical, making it difficult for characters to express their true thoughts or emotions. Next is Pinterest of pauses and silence. Pinter used deliberate pauses to create tension and unseen, forcing the audience to focus on what is left unsaid rather than spoken. Power and manipulation through language. Goldberg and McCann use fast, intimate speech patterns to confuse and control Stanley, demonstrating how language can be a tool of dominance. Contradictory and meaningless conversation. Characters frequently contradict themselves or speak in vague, unrelated phrases, highlighting the absurdist theme of the failure of language. Next is silence as a form of oppression. Stanley, the main victim of psychological intimidation, is often speechless, showing how silence can reflect fear, submission, or loss of identity. Unanswered question and ambiguity. Characters are rarely respond directly to question and creating an unsettling sense of mystery and reinforcing the play's absurdist nature. These are themes of uncertainty and menace, ambiguous reality, psychological menace, unclear identities, language's weapon, sense of interruption, and unresolved ending. First is ambiguous reality. The plays lack clear explains about characters past their relationship or the true purpose of Goldberg and McCann's visit, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty. Next is psychological menace. Threat in the plays are often implied rather than explicit, making the tension more unsettling and unpredictable. Third is unclear identities. Stanley's past remain mysteries, and Goldberg and McCann's role are never fully explained, reinforcing the ideas that identity is fluid and uncertain. Next is language is a weapon. Goldberg and McCann use confusing, contradictory dialogue to intimidate Stanley, demonstrating how language can be used for control rather than communication. Next is sense of entrapment. The confined setting of the boarding house creates a feeling of claustrophobia, emphasizing Stanley's helplessness and inability to escape. Next is unresolved ending. The plays conclude without the answer, leaving the audience in a state of unseen, mirroring life's unpredictability and lack of closure. Conclusion. Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party exemplifies the theater of the absurd through its ambiguity, illogical dialogue, and psychological menace, creating a world where meaning is elusive and reality is unstable. The play's breakdown of communication, shifting identities, and unresolved conflict reflect the absurd views of life, unpredictably and incomprehensibility. Pinter's use of silence, pauses, and dark humor heightens tension, making ordinary situations feel unsettling by blending realism with absurdism. The plays challenging and traditional storytelling and leaves audience questioning an identity, power, and reality, reinforcing the lasting impact of absurdist theater on the modern drama. These are my references. Thank you. Now you're free to ask a question.
Truvika, my question is, how does Pinter use the power dynamic in the play?
Yes, Jai. Through language manipulation and psychological intimation, showing in the instability of the power of Pinter's use the power dynamic in the play. Next question.
Dhruvika, my question is how did critics initially react to the birthday party?
Yes, Divya. The play was intentionally poorly received. Later recognized as a masterpiece of absurdist theater. Thank you. This is my side.
Hello everyone, I am Sanket Bavadia and today I am going to presentation on the topic Absurdism in literature, the search for meaning in a meaningless world. Uh, we all know about Absurdism and in this presentation we discuss about what is Absurdism and how it emerged, the history of Absurdism and major and contemporary works of Absurdism in literature. This is my academic information. Table of content. First, we discuss with introduction, then definition of absurdism, then search for meaning, then history of absurdism literature, key themes in absurdist literature, major works and authors, contemporary influence of absurdism, then conclusion. Research question. In what way does the portrayal of absurdism influence readers' understanding of meaning and existence? And my hypothesis is it is hypothesized the incorporating absurdist principle in a literature disturb conventional storytelling by emphasizing the inherent meaningless of existence, thereby prompting readers to reevaluate traditional perception of identity and purpose. Start with this quote by Albert Camus. Seeking what is true is not seeking what is desirable. It means the searching for truth is a difference from what we want to be truth. Here, Albert Camus talk on truth. The truth is different, and what we think about truth is sometimes maybe different. Sometimes maybe truth is unpleasant, harsh, and is a difference from our thinking. Introduction. Absurdism is a philosophical concept that explores the conflict between humanity's quest for meaning and the universe indifference. It suggests the absurdism is a philosophical concept and explore the quest for meaning and always finds meaning in a meaningless world. The absurd arises from this contradiction, not from the nature of the universe or human beings alone. It asserts that any attempt to find absolute meaning is a futile, closely related to the existentialism and nihilism. Absurdism highlights the inherent uncertainty and ambiguity of human existence. The absurdism is closely related with the existentialism, nihilism. Definition. The absurd refers to the conflict between human beings' constant search for meaning, order, logic in life, and the universe complete indifferent to this effort. It happens because the human look for purpose. So it absurdism refers the conflict between human beings and the humans always look for purpose, always find a meaning, always find a purpose. So but at the end it's all are absurd. And example of waiting for Godot, we see this type of definition. History of absurdist literature. The absurdism is a modern movement and it's emerged around after World War, and it's begun in 20th century, mid 20th century, after World War II. And Martin Esslin coined this term. Absurdism coined Martin Esslin coined this term in 1961, describe a movement in a drama that depicted the absurdity of human existence. So Martin Esslin, who was the first who described this modern this term in a drama, and then Albert Camus. Albert Camus essay The Myth of Sisyphus. In 1942, we see the absurdist literature in influence of existential and nihilist thought. Absurdism also influenced of existential and nihilist thought, and some contribution of some authors like Albert Camus, Franz Kafka, Soren Kierkegaard, and Samuel Beckett. Main figures of absurdist literature. Franz Kafka, The Metamorphosis. Albert Camus essay The Myth of Sisyphus. Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot, and the Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party. Key themes in absurdist literature. Here are four main key themes of absurdist literature. First, the isolation of individual thoughts. In absurdist literature, we often found the character disconnected from society and struggle for the loneliness. So, is this the main theme of absurdist literature we found in absurdist literature? De-evolution of language. De-evolution of language means sometimes dialogues make ambiguous, and we often find in some absurdist work often find this theme, de-evolution of language. The lack of plot also we found in absurdist work like Waiting for Godot. We see it is not set in a traditional narrative structure. We found the modern structure, so we can say that lack of plot also used in absurdist literature. The world without meaning. The world without meaning is also used in absurdist literature. For example, in a Waiting for Godot, we found the two characters Vladimir and Estragon. They are waiting for Godot, but their waiting is meaningless, and it's not meaning. So they are often found meaning in waiting, but at the end it is a meaninglessness. So here also used in absurdist literature. Major works and authors. First, Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett is an absurdist play about two men, Vladimir and Estragon, who wait endlessly for the mysterious Godot who never arrives. It explores existential themes of meaninglessness, times, and human suffering. Albert Camus, The Myth of Sisyphus. The myth of Sisyphus from Greek mythology. A hill, only to rock back down each time. Albert Camus later used this myth to illustrate the absurdity of human life, arguing that the one must find meaning despite its futility. Franz Kafka, The Metamorphosis. His work often explores the theme of alienation, bureaucracy, existential dread, and the absurdity of life. Last is Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party. The Birthday Party is a seminal absurdist play that transformed an ordinary bordering house setting into a stage for unsettling mysterious power dynamics. It ambiguous dialogue and looming menace reflect the breakdown of communication and identity in a modern society. So these are work of absurdist. Contemporary influence of absurdism. The first is Everything Everywhere at All at Once, which was released in 2022, is also follow this theme, absurdism. The Lighthouse, released in 2029. And last is I'm Thinking of an Ending Thing. It was released in 2022. So these are all contemporary influence of absurdist literature. Conclusion. In a conclusion, absurdism in a literature challenges the traditional narrative by highlighting the contradiction of human existence and the futility of seeking absolute meaning. it depends our understanding of identity and purpose while remaining relevant in contemporary literature and film, prompting critical reflection on a society and life uncertainty. So throughout the presentation, we find the absurdism is a challenge the traditional narratives and its difference from traditional thoughts, traditional structure, narrative, and genres, etc. and and society's life uncertainty. Uh, this is my references. Thank you, everyone. And now you can free ask the question to me.
Sanket, my question is, how does absurdist literature reflects the historical and philosophical context of the 20th century, particularly post-World War II?
The Absurdist literature reflect, especially in after World War, it reflects as a existential crisis and it challenges traditional belief and it also influenced by existential philosophy. Next question.
Sanket, my question is it possible to find personal meaning within an absurdist framework?
Yes, personal meaning we can find in absurdist meaning we can find, but it must be self-created. We can find meaning in is a individual meaning. We can find, yes, we can find meaning in absurdist framework. Thank you, everyone. This is from my side.
Hello everyone. Today I am going to dealing with the topic Black humor in 20th century literature, absurdity and political critique. Here is my academic information, table of content, and my research question is for this is how does black humor in 20th century literature eliminates the contradiction and failures of political and social structure. Hypothesis is black humor in 20th century literature serves as a critical lens through which authors expose societal contradiction, challenges dominant ideologies, and confront existential dilemmas. By blending the grotesque with the comic, black humor forces readers to engage with uncomfortable truth about power, race, and morality. Introduction. What is juxtapose morbid or ghastly images with comical ones that underscores the senseless of futility of life. Black humor often uses farce and low comedy to make clear that individuals are helpless victims of fate and character. A relevance of black humor in 20th century literature. Black humor arose in response to social political crises of 20th century, particularly war, oppression, disillusionment. Through absurdity and irony, it exposed the collapse of traditional morality and logic questioning societal institution and highlighting the contradiction of modern existence. So, war and failure of logic. The devastation of world wars and Cold War's paranoia lead to works like Joseph Heller's Sketch 2020. 22 novel, which highlights the absurdity of military bureaucracy, and Kurt Vonnegut's Law for a Housewife, blending surreal humor with war trauma. This novel is banned in many countries, subverting dominant narrative. Black humor become a tool for marginalized voice. Ralph Emerson's Invisible Man critiques racial invisibility through satire, while Arvind Adiga's The White Tigers exposes India's caste and corruption with dark wit. Political critique through absurdity.
Writers mocked power structure using irony as seen is George Orwell's 1984 and the Indian satirical classic Srilal Shukla's The Rag Darbari, which critiques rural politics and systemic corruption of a post Indian society. Modern influence from Jordan Peele's Get Out to HBO's Succession, black humor remains a potent tool for critics societal absurdities. It thrives as an aesthetic response to collapsing a moral and logical framework. Succession is a series of American dark humor which reflects more black humor as a response to absurdity. Wagner states that absurdist writer proclaimed the irrationality and apparent meaninglessness of existence, defying the absurdity of life by its very affirmation. Black humor in literature highlights the futility of human struggle while embracing its absurdity. Here is example for Waiting for Godot. True times. Two tramps wait endlessly for Godot, who never arrives. Their circular dialogues reflects the meaningless repetition of life. The metamorphosis. George Samsa wakes up as a giant insect, yet his family treats this grotesque transformation with disturbing indifference. The novella critiques alienation and absurdity in modern life. Black humor in these works underscores existential absurdity, questioning traditional moral and logical structures. Black humor in African American literature, resistance through humor. Black humor critiques systematic oppression while serving as an act of resistance, expose racial stereotypes and challenges dominant narratives through satire and absurdity. Literary cultures and examples. Invisible Man. This uses surrealism and irony to highlight racial invisibility, identity, and struggles. Jumbo Mombo, this is a novel by Ismail Reed, blends satire and historical revisionism to critique racial and cultural erasures. Richard Pryor's stand-up comedy confronts racial and social injustice through sharp wit and dark humor. Role of absurdity in political critique. HUAS, ACs and Cold War paranoia. The paranoia in American and Cold War surveillance created an environment of absurd fear and suspicious. Joseph Heller's Catch-22 exemplifies how bureaucracy and war operates on self-contradictory logic where survival depends on navigating irrational rules. Stanley Kubrick's The Strange Love satirized nuclear brinkmanship, showing political leaders making ludicrous decisions leading to destruction, capitalism, and racial inequality. The absurdity of systemic oppression in evident. Ralph Evison's Invisible Man. This is novel, and there are many movie adaptations on this Invisible Man, where a protagonist rendered socially invisible due to racial bias. Ismail Reed's Mumbo Jumbo employs surreal humor to critique cultural appreciation of and history revision. Indian comedian Kunal Karma's stand-up performances use satire to expose political hypocrisy and media bias, much like Richard Pryor's critique of racism through comedy. Black humor in film adaptation. So challenges in adapting black comedy into film. So censorship and commercial constraint. Many adaptations of black humor face challenges due to censorship and audience expectation. The dark satirical elements often get softened to make films more commercially viable. For example, Nathaniel West Miss Lonely Heart was adapted into Lonely Heart, but it lost much of its dark comic edge. As Pogel and Chamberlain observe, Miss Lonely Heart, Nathaniel West's important black comic novel, became a Lonely Heart in the 15s, but it was not even funny when it could have been. Successful adaptation of Jojo Rabbit. So Talika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit adapts black humor to critique Nazi ideology through the lens of child. The film blends comedy and tragedy, portraying Nazi leader as a buffoonish to mock irrationality of fascism by depicting Hitler as an imaginary friend, as satirized blind loyalty and indoctrination, exposing the absurdity of nationalism and propaganda. Black humor involves an ultimate and finally frightening or horrifying subversion of all logical structures, even the medium through which the comic itself conveyed. Black comedy, at its best, permits an audience not single refuge or crutch, according to Campbellin. A contemporary example of black humor. So if it see it in movies, so Gilota states, through black humor, African American artists destabilize conventional racial narratives, refusing easy categorization. Modern creations use satire and absurdity to critique race, politics, and social issue. So for example, Rajkumar Hirani's PK critiques religious dogma and blind faith through satire. For example, in the movie, protagonist native question exposed the absurdity of religious hypocrisy. Charlie Brooker's The Black Mirror. Black Mirror uses dark satire to critique technology, media, and social behavior. For example, the episode Nurse Jave humorously exaggerated a world where social media rating determine a person's worth, exposing an absurdity of online validation culture. Veerdas for India. This is show Indian comedian Veerdas uses satire to critique social and political issue in India. This Netflix special Veerdas for India blends humor and cultural commentary on topics like colonial history, religious tension, and censorship. Black humor as a universal phenomenon. International scope of the absurdist movement transcends national boundaries, incorporating diverse literary traditions. As Wagner states, with headquarters in Paris and exponents in Germany, England, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and the United States, the absurd might be regarded as a cosmopolitan movement nourished by international sources. For example, from global literature, so the Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov satirized Soviet bureaucracy and censorship through the surreal narrative involving the devil visiting Moscow, used dark humor to highlight the absurdity of totalitarian control and ideological oppression. The Teen Drum by Gunter Grass, the grotesque and satirical take on World War II and post-war uses absurdity to critique nationalism, historical amnesia, and the complicity of ordinary people in fascism. These works demonstrate that black humor serves as a powerful tool to critique oppressive system and historical absurdities across different cultures. Conclusion. Black humor serves as a powerful lens through which writers, filmmakers, and comedians critique societal absurdity, political oppression, and existential anxieties. From the theater of the absurd to contemporary satire, it destabilized conventional narratives, exposing the irrationality of war, racism, and ideological extremism. As Wagner and Gilota suggest, black humor is a universal phenomenon, transcending cultures to challenge authority and provoke critical thought. Whether in literature, film, or stand-up comedy, it remains a crucial tool for resistance and reflection in an increasingly absurd world. Here are my references, and thank you. Now, if you have any question, then feel free to ask.
Pali, my question is, how does black humor use comedy to highlight social injustice and challenge those in power?
Yes, as black humor is one of the most that it used to reflect serious. It used to reflect serious and serious matters in a simple ways, but if you see by joke on those who are in power, it reflects people to see that reality of their and in comic way reality of them.
Krupali, my question is, does black humor help people understand serious issue better, or can it make them care less about them?
According to me, I think black humor can do both. It helps people to see serious matter in better way and in a reflective. And if it is too much, then people are don't take it seriously. That's it. Thank you. Hello everyone, myself Khushi Ravia. Today's my topic is Absurdism in Indian classical literature, the chaos of dharma in the Mahabharata. This is my personal information. This is a table of contents. Research question: how does the Mahabharata reflect absurdist themes through the contradiction of dharma and the unpredictability of fate? Hypothesis: the Mahabharata presents a chaotic and contradictory view of dharma, aligning with absurdist notions of meaninglessness and moral ambiguity. Through characters like Arjuna, Yudhishthir, and Karna, and epic illustrates the struggle between moral duty and existential uncertainty, ultimately questioning the validity of a structured cosmic order. Introduction. The Mahabharata explores dharma, fate, and morality through contradiction that reflect absurdist themes. Arjuna's crisis, Yudhishthira's dilemmas, Karna's fate, and Draupadi's humiliation highlight the unpredictability of justice and destiny. The Kurukshetra war's futility and the epic's illusory ending reinforce the existential struggle for meaning in a chaotic world. This presentation examines how the Mahabharata embodies absurdism, questioning the coherence of comic order. Absurdism in literature. Absurdism is a philosophical perspective that explores the conflict between human beings' search for meaning and the universe's fundamental indifference to lack of inherent meaning. Irrational and meaningless. Yet humans persist in seeking purpose, creating an existential paradox. Origins is derived from Latin absurds. Meaning of this word is out of tune. Developed by Albert Camus in The Myth of Sisyphus. Published in 1942, related to existentialism but rejects the idea that humans can create meaning. Key characteristics: illogical situation, events defy explanation, dark humor and satire, critiques social norms, existential themes, explores freedom, choice and isolation, rejection of traditional plot structure, fragmented and cyclical narratives. Arjuna's existential crisis. This slok said in this slok, Arjun said to Krishna, "Hey Madhusudan, even if they will their relatives kill Arjun for sake of kingdom and three words, so I don't want to kill all of them. Let alone the earth. He don't want don't want to kill his relatives." Arjuna's conflict, dharma versus attachment. Arjun attached with his teachers, elders, family members, so he confused between dharma and attachment. Kurukshetra, battle of rightness versus attachment. Kurukshetra is not only physical war zone, but it's a symbol of inner battlefield. It's a symbol of human struggles. Arjuna's bow drops, so symbol of inner conflict. in the middle of war, Arjun's bows, Gandivas, are slips from her hands. It's symbol of his inner conflict and his inner breakdown. Arjuna's dilemma, duty versus emotion in ethics. He asked to Krishna, does duty is violence? Yudhishthira's dilemma in Yaksha Prasna. Yaksha Prasna in Mahabharata present a parallel dilemma. Yudhishthir faces a reality where logic, morality, and fate seem unpredictable, aligning with the absurd struggle between order and chaos. Ethical paradox. Yudhishthir must choose between instinct and dharma. His decision mirrors existential absurdity. Human beings must act even when the outcomes are uncertain. Dharma's contradiction. The Mahabharata itself questions dharma, presenting it a situational and often paradoxical. Philosophical crisis. Unlike his brothers who react impulsively, Yudhishthira embraces wisdom over survival, aligning with Stoic existentialism seen in Absurdist literature. Karna's fate and the absurdity of life. Karna is an absurd hero. Karna's lifelong struggle for recognition, despite his skill and virtues, mirror Kamu's absurd hero, one who strives despite knowing the universe is different. He accepts his doomed fate, yet continues to fight, embodying the existential define of the absurd. Dharma and cosmic injustice. Karna follows Kshatriya Dharma but is continuously denied it. Revealed his merit is overshadowed by fate and social status. His loyalty to Duryodhan, despite knowing it will lead to destruction, showcase the contradiction of dharma and fatalism. He always stay with Duryodhan if Duryodhan is right or wrong. Karna rejection of Krishna's offer the absurd choice. When Krishna offers him kingship and brotherhood with the Pandavas, Karna chooses loyalty over personal gain, knowing it will lead to death because he always loyal to Duryodhan. Draupadi's humiliation, the arbitrary nature of justice. Dharma's paradox and illusion of justice. Dharma as an ethical framework collapses in the Kaurava court when Draupadi is humiliated. Bhishma, Drona, and Dhritarashtra, figures of authority, remain silent, showing how justice is manipulated by power rather than unplayed by moral law. Even they not answering her questions. Draupadi's her fate, Draupadi questions the legitimacy of Yudhishthira's gambling and the court's silence. The article compared these two existential absurdism, where an individual fights back against an inherent world that refuses to provide justice. The role of Krishna and the divine irony. Krishna intervenes, but the injustice is never undone. Emphasizing the arbitrary nature of divine justice, this aligns with Absurdist thought justice may come, but often is unpredictable or delayed ways. The Kurukshetra war, a meaningless cycle of destruction. The war is an absurdist narrative. The war leads to endless cycle of vagueness, suffering, and unfulfilled resolution. Despite victory, the Pandavas find no true satisfaction, reinforcing existential absurdity. Because Pandavas don't want fight with their family. Moral ambiguity and the futility of ethics. Bhishma, Drona, and Karna fight despite knowing the war is injustice. Unlighting face cruelty. Krishna, both a divine guide and an in sources of war, paradoxically uploads and subverts dharma. Destruction without the true resolution. Both Kauravas and Pandavas suffer immense losing, making the war a zero-sum game. Yudhishthir's reluctant rule endocrisis and the existential void left by destruction. The end of the Mahabharata, the ultimate illusion. The Pandavas' futile journey. The Pandavas embark on a journey to Himalayas, seeing liberation but dying on one by one. Their date suggests the futility of earthly attachments and ambitions. Yudhishthira's heaven is an illusion. Yudhishthira reaches heaven but is horrified to see his loved one in hell. The gods later reveal it as an illusion, testing his attachment to earthly notions of good and evil. The illusion of justice and karna. The Mahabharata's conclusion subverts expectation of divine justice. Karma does not provide clear moral resolution, aligning with absurdist thought. Dharma is an unknowable concept. The end of the epic suggests that no human truly understands Dharma. It aligns with existential philosophy where meaning is subjective and uncertain. Conclusion. The Mahabharata embodies absurdism where dharma collapses under fate's cruelty. Justice appears arbitrary and ethics remain paradoxical. Even divine intervention fails to resolve existential despair. The struggles between moral ideals and harsh reality underscores the illusion of order in chaotic world, reinforcing in absurdist conflict between duty and meaninglessness. These are my references. Thank you. If you have any questions to ask.
So, Khushi, my question is for you. What role does existential uncertainty play in the ethical dilemmas of the Mahabharata?
Existential uncertainty in the Mahabharata forces character to act disappear moral outcomes, and it's highlighting a tension between duty and fate.
Khushi, my question is Yudhishthir's dharma idealistic or pragmatic?
Yudhishthir uses both type of dharma. He strives. He's he's His strive is idealistic, but when he necessary, he also use reality. Thank you. This is from my side.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Kushi MAKWANA. Today I am dealing with the topic Dadaism, art as anti-art. Personal information, table of contents. My research question is, Good afternoon, everyone. Today I am dealing with the topic Dadaism, art as anti-art. Personal information. બરાબર જ છે. ખુલ્લું છે. Very good afternoon, everyone. Myself, KHUSHI MAKWANA. Today I am dealing with the topic Dadaism, art as anti-art. My personal information, table of contents, my research question, how did Dadaism challenge traditional artistic norms and what impact did it have on modern and contemporary art movements? Hypothesis, Dadaism as an anti-art movement rejected traditional artistic convention and emerged absurdity, spontaneity, and the non-conformity. This this radical approach not only reshaped the definition of art in the early 20th century, but also laid the foundation for the later avant-garde movements such as surrealism and the conceptual art, uh, in, influencing contemporary artistic practices and the critical discourses. Dadaism definition. Dadaism or Dada was an avant-garde artistic and literary movement that originated in the early 20th century and around 1916 as a response of the horrors of World War I. Origin began in Zurich in 1916 as a reaction to the war. Historical context. World War I impact on art and society. World War I 1914 to 1918 caused the destruction and disillusionment and the collapse of the old belief in resource, artistic rejection, traditional forms, modernism, fragmented narratives, Dadaism, absurdity over logic, expressionism and surrealism, intense emotion and the subconscious, war trauma fueled avant-garde movements, uh, reshaping art and literature. Key characteristic of Dadaism. First, irrationality and absurdity, challenges nonsense. Second, rejection of the tradition, opus conventional artistic value, questioning the purpose of art. Third one, the unconventional techniques used collage, photomonals, ready-mades, and the random chance and creation. Dadaism was an anti-art movement born from World War I's disillusionment, mocking social norms and authority. Notable Dada artists. First, the Michael Duchamp in 1887 to 1968, a key figure in Dada and Surrealism. Duchamp revolutionized art with his concept of ready-mades, indirectly objects designed as art, such as Fountain in 1917, a urinal site are mute. His work questioned the traditional artistic value and authenticity. Second one, Hona Hoch in 1889 to 1978. A German artist known for pioneer photomontage, Hoch used cutout image from mass media to critique gender roles, social norms, and political issues. Her famous work, Cut with the Kitchen Knife, in 1919, highlights the Weimar era contradictions. The third one is Tristan Zara in 1896 to 1963. A poet, a theorist, Zara co-founded Dada in Zurich and wrote the Dada Manifesto in 1918, which defined the movement, the embrace of absurdity, anti-art sentiment, and the rejection of rationality. He plays a central role in the spreading Dada across Europe. Dadaism as anti-art, challenging the art, rejection the traditional aesthetics, and embracing absurdity and irrationality. Anti-commodification, they criticize the art market for the turning art into a product. Spontaneity and the chaos, they used random unconventional methods like a collage and ready-mades. War reaction emerged as a response to World War One, opposing the established cultural norms. Influence, the paved in the way the advance-guard movement like a surrealism. Dada technique and medium, use the collage photo montage and the ready-mades. Formats art and the poetry as explanation of Dada philosophy. Example of famous work, Duchamp's The Fountain. The Dada Manifesto. Overview of the manifesto's main idea. Empathize on chaos and spontaneity and the rejection of logic. The impact on the movement and its followers. Legacy of Dadaism, influence on surrealism and later art movements. Impact on contemporary art and artists. Continue relevance in the disillusion about art and society. Conclusion, Dadaism revolutionize in the by rejecting traditional and the embracing absurdity, spontaneity, and the anti-establishment ideas, challenging norms and redefining artistic expression, and the influence later movements like a surrealism and the conceptual art. Its legacy enduring in the contemporary culture, inspiring avant-garde creativity and the resistance through art. Here are my references, and thank you. Now you are free to ask me question.
My question is for you. How did Dadaism use the chance in artistic creation?
The Dada artist uh, the Dada artists create their art in different ways. Somewhere cut the photographs of ready-mades and then they do the work, and somewhere create poetry like different words in different manners. In they are meaningless, but in the deep they were found the deeper meaning.
Khushi, my question is, did Dadaism have any political influence?
Yes, the Dadaism had a strong political influence, as many Dada artists critique on politics with their art. As we know, the Dada is meaningless, but somewhere it express the meaning. Some artists cutting the generalist and the create their Dada work, and it's critic on politicals. So it influence all politics or nationalism and capitalism also. Thank you. This is from my side.
Okay, so a very quick feedback let me give. First one was RUTVI presented on war poems, and there was a good question that was asked regarding journalism and poetry, and also either pro-war patriotic poems and protest poems. So when you answer such questions, you have to see that when there is a war situation, there is a complete blackout or control over media, journalism. People cannot write. It's not easy, a space when a country is at war to express anything which is against nation. So in that context, how the writers will try to, as this poem, that when I was asked to write a poem, but he is denying it. But by denying, he is writing a poem. So it becomes more relevant after the war has ended, not at that time. Then how the things fall out from that. That way it needs to be contextualized. Okay? Other were good. BHARGAV, KRISHNA, KUMKUM. Parthiv also had a good topic, but need to improve speech in articulating all the words are still not clearly pronounced. So do some more rehearsal of this. Record your voice, listen it again. Okay? 2-3 presentations which I have posted in WhatsApp also, wherein we need to make the space more clear, like a stream of consciousness in classical Indian literature. Trupti was seeing this. Or Bhumi was reading social media and digital stream of consciousness. This too, if you see, we find that there is a huge difference in how people read in the narrative which is mediated by the narrator, and stream of consciousness. There is a freedom given to the flow of thought of the person in the mind of whose things are happening. This a structured or unstructured thought in traditional narratives, even though there are internal conflicts, it is a very structured manner in which things are presented. So this all makes a huge difference. Even the language is of a different kind, which is more organized language in traditional narrative. Whereas in stream of consciousness, everything is broken. It is fragmented flow of thought also. So that need to be seen carefully, and then it needs to be applied. In Bhumis also, there is this difference that though social media things seems to be like stream of consciousness, but it is not one person. There are so many people, lots of deleting, editing, lots of thinking goes into all those things also. You also used one word in your presentation, digital. It was McGilvery you cited on the slide. Let me share this screen. So here, like what is stream of consciousness and what is digital stream of consciousness? And then you cited McGilvery at there. So I was looking that article, and I came to this page by Evander Bradley McGilvery, but he's not talking anything about digital, social media or other kinds of things is the source is the Journal of Philosophy, Psychology and Scientific Methods, which was published in 1907. So this is not appropriate. Like digital stream of consciousness cited McGilvery. You go and see what McGilvery is saying. He wrote something 100 years ago, and he's not writing anything about digital social media. So when we borrow material, we have to be very careful that when I cite this and I borrow material, is it there or not? That is very important. Otherwise, this seems to be like it is not giving us a proper information. This site is not giving us a research on digital stream of consciousness which is cited. Now, if that happens, it is a good idea. If somebody has done a research and you are using that research, it is well founded. So I was interested in that is it well founded, and then you are building your things on that, but that was not so. It was not used. So this we have to be very careful that when we use in this manner, it tries to give an air of authenticity, but it is not authentic. It becomes a lie or a kind of a cheat that comes on the slide. So when anybody when you like work on this topics, you go beyond syllabus and try to explore this, it is good that you do that. That way we come to know when you apply something on other things, we come to know that are you understanding that concept very well or not. So if the concept is not understood very well, then the application will be faulty, or it may be having some problem. If you don't do that, we never come to know whether you have understood the concepts or not. So when you apply, we come to know that it is good you are applying, but there is a misplaced application, and this all gaps needs to be identified very clearly also. So we see that stream of consciousness is very private, subconscious and uncontrolled, whereas social media is public, curated, it is performative. It is a deliberate act by people about how they want to present themselves. It's not unconscious attempt as such that is made by the people. So this, and the next one was KHUSHI's presentation also, KHUSHI Ravia, which also we have put here. This was about Mahabharata and absurdism or existentialism that when we try to read in that. So that also is problematic on the ground that this all postmodernist literature is challenging classical narratives. All the classical literatures are being broken, fragmented. They question that they go against that all thing. So it means there was something problematic in the classical grand narratives. Now that's why you need to make something else to do the fragmentation of those things. They all had some meanings. New narratives are trying to break those meanings. That way they are challenging. So you can't directly read the same things in the classical literature. You have to find a proper gap. So again, you have to see, has anybody done this kind of research? What way they are looking into it? And how do you agree with those ideas that they have done? And then you can build something. This one or two examples can be taken, but you can't say that this is in totality. You can read Mahabharata as a absurd text. It is not so. It is very well founded in the particular kind of a meaning about what is dharma, what is karma. So right from the beginning, it is told that why this work is written. The meaning is very clear for writing that, and lot many other things might have happened in the lives of all this character, but that doesn't come there because that doesn't serve the main purpose of writing Mahabharata or any epic poem, Greek epic poem. So they sit down to write with specific purpose, and they select only that part of all those characters that serve the purpose of the epic poem. All other things are removed from the narrative also. So this you have to see that how you apply, but do literature review, and see who has done the work of this kind. That will help you. Is there anybody who has done such work that is necessary, a thing to see that, or whether what is your clarity of concept? Then how you apply that concept on all this thing becomes very important. KHUSHI Goswami also presented well. Jai also presented well. Divya is citing from previous students' work. It is good that you have mentioned that in the citation that you have taken from, I think, Dharti Makwana's slide share. So it is good practice that whatever you are taking, you are citing, putting it there. But at the same time, don't forget the golden rule that you have to refer to quality journals, not any student's work, but experts' work. That is what you have to refer inside. That's why we tell you to refer